Alright, welcome in everyone. Oh, one moment. There we go. Now my microphone's in the right spot. I'm just slightly scattered at the moment. I was almost late, but it's fine. I'm here now. Why is my model tracking being weird? Okay, I'm just all over the place at the moment. One sec, let me... Did that help? There we go. I think it's tracking slightly better. Anyways, I'm slightly distracted at the moment because I just got the final copy of the character sheet I commissioned, and it's gorgeous, and I'm slightly obsessed with it. And I was a little distracted, and so I rushed to get everything set up for my stream. Luckily, most of it I had set up beforehand. It was just getting water and stuff. So I have relatively cold tea because I didn't have time to brew it properly. Although actually, it's not actually that much colder than what I normally drink it at. Anyways, I'm going to try to focus now and stop being so scattered. But so far, today's a great day. I woke up early, I worked on my fanfic for a bit, I got my character sheet, and now we're playing this absolutely gorgeous game that I also adore. And I should be getting a new office chair today, so that's exciting. Because, well, to be honest, my computer chair's been dying for a while. I've just been in denial. But the wheels fell off again after I fixed it, so I gave in and bought a new chair, which hopefully will arrive today. But yeah. Anyways, enough about that and my scattered brain at the moment. It's a happy scattered, but very scattered. So let's go ahead and jump in to the game and hopefully focus. So, where we're at in the story. We're in step 3, so their characters are 18 years old, first summer after high school. They're dating. That's probably all you really need to know at this point. And yeah, let's just jump in to the first moment. It's called reflection. I like reflection, in a self-reflection sense. Anyways, I'm all over the place. Let's just get started. Okay. Look at all these fishies. I think he has more. Weren't the fish over there before? Do you rearrange over the years? Probably. Anyways, okay. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, Yun Cove had retreated to his room to relax before starting the day in earnest. Hey, Mathis, welcome in. How you doing? We are just starting this game. Or not starting this game, playing today's story. I am all over the place at the moment. I got my character sheet literally 10 minutes ago, and I've been so distracted by it. It is so beautiful. Anyways, welcome in. Feel free to chat, feel free to lurk, whatever you want to do. We're just continuing this visual novel that I'm absolutely obsessed with. Pretty good, just been chilling. How are you? I'm doing really good. Today is a good day. I woke up early, I worked on my fanfic, I got my character sheet, and now I'm playing this game I'm obsessed with. So yeah, it's a good day. Let's see. How are we? Or perhaps you would take it easy. Okay, let me start over. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, Yun Cove had retreated to his bedroom. Oh boy, I can't even read at the moment. Let's try this again. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, Yun Cove had retreated to his bedroom to relax before starting the day in earnest. Or perhaps you would just take it easy for the whole afternoon. Neither of you had plans exactly, so you were free to do whatever came to mind. Oh, what are we doing? Let's see. Leaning against Cove on his bed. Fiddle with a Rubik's Cube. I haven't fiddled with a Rubik's Cube in forever. Part of me wants one, but at the same time, They kind of get boring once you know how to solve them, but they are fun to play with. Sat next to Cove on the bed, toying with his hair. Sat on the ground, doing pictures of the sand scattered across the floor. That's kind of cute. But let's go with... Sat next to Cove on the bed, toying with his hair. You ran your fingers through the short strands, flipping them between your fingers as if you were a hairstylist assessing a new look. Really, though, you just liked the way the bristles tickled your fingers. Even with your mind elsewhere, you could tell Cove was similarly at ease. He had his chin propped up with one hand as he scrolled through his phone. A burst of laughter broke the silence, hooking your attention and bringing you back to the present. You looked at Cove for an explanation. His eyes, now crinkled with mirth, were still locked on his screen. What's so funny? He finally looked up at you, smirking. Dad scanned some old photos. You know, he drew a rectangle in the air with the phone free hand. Printed out once, back from when I was little. He texted it all to me last night, I guess. I've been checking them out. You were looking at kitty photos and didn't tell me? We'll just ask if we can see. Cove narrowed his eyes, smile still bent. I was gonna show you. I just wanted to look at it first to make sure there's nothing super embarrassing. You never know with my dad. He grimaced, envisaging what horrors his dad might unwittingly spring on him.
I mean,
what if there's a photo of me getting potty trained or something? You suppressed it with a shudder and nod. I'm just gonna laugh at it. Yeah, that sounds like something your dad would do. Cove only cleared his throat nervously, the fear of his dad's well-meaning actions still looming large in his mind. Anyway, before we forget, I was laughing because I came across a Halloween one from when I was 8. The air was a zombie, remember? He shook his head, grinning wryly while holding the phone out to you. Aw, you're so cute! I never even liked zombies. All I wanted was to show off my new scar. Okay, that's both adorable and really clever. I like that. Okay, all I wanted to do was show off my new scar, and it needed to be something scary. I couldn't be a normal person who had a scar, according to my 8-year-old mind. I was a little dork. Yeah, you were, but that was actually quite clever. I appreciate that.
right?
Dad really wanted it to be useful as usual. He came up with the idea of being an undead person. It's pretty cool, huh? Lizzie was grossed out and Shiloh was terrified. Probably. I remember getting lots of extra candy when I told you the scar was real. It was good, but my costume that year was better. I don't know, that's a pretty good costume. That'd be hard to beat. I think we'll go with, man, I was so jealous of that look. I also don't really like zombies either, but I like the way you worked in his scar with the costume. It's quite cool. You tried your best, but it was hard to compete with a real-life scar, or so you wishfully thought at the time. Cove chuckled at your reply. I can't believe how much larger my scar used to be. He looked down at his arm, a soft smile on his face, and traced what remained of the jagged line with his fingers, just as you'd seen him do countless times before. His voice was playful when he spoke again. Look at how tiny it is now. How am I gonna pretend to be tough without a big scar? Cove, you've never fooled anyone. You're relieved that I accept I even liked a scar? That is a good one. It still looks cool, also valid. Better not do anything stupid to get a new scar. We'll go with it still looks cool. Thanks. Ko smiled bashfully, pleased with his joke, and ducked his head to look away from you. His fingers were still tracing the scarred patch of skin. I really do like having this, even if it is kind of little these days. His voice was shy, like he was letting you in on a big secret. Cove turned back to face you fully, finally letting go of his scar. He was happy. The mark was a part of him and clearly held meaning for Cove. I say, reaching over, you laid a reassuring hand on his arm where the scar was. You cupped his arm with your fingers carefully as your thumb ran down the outline of his scar. Along with the rougher tissue of the scar, you could also feel goosebumps on his arms. Cove let out a choked breath, a dizzied smile playing out on his face. It was evident that he liked the feeling. Held his gaze or lifted his arm up to kiss the scar. I kind of want to see how much can we make him blush with this, because he's already blushing quite a lot. Sure, he lifted his arm up to kiss the scar. Your hold shifted so you could bring his forearm to your face. Cove quietly gasped when he realized what you were doing. He tenderly kissed the old wound that marked him. Cove squeaked at the feeling of your lips on him, and in that spot in particular, but his expression was overwhelmingly one of adoration. Aww. Cove couldn't stay still and reached for you himself with his free hand, his fingers brushing against your cheek. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Can I kiss you? Yes. His cheeks burned red as he closed the gap between you, his mouth gently meeting yours. You held onto his arm like a lifeline as you kissed him back, briefly worried that you might drown in the depths of your feelings. Then you opened your eyes, meeting Cove's, and knew that the feeling was mutual. He laid his forehead to rest against yours. You felt his hot breath tickling your face. Heads touching, your hand on his arm, you were entwined with Cove. It felt so right. Time couldn't register in that moment. It could have been seconds or minutes, but eventually you straightened up, lifting your hand from his scar. That seemed to break the spell, though he stayed close to you. That seemed to break the spell. Though he stayed close to you, Cove sat up and came to his senses. Your eyes drifted back to the scar on Cove's arm. The scar had been there as long as you'd known Cove, though when you'd first met, it had been concealed by that neon pink cast.
So?
Want to hear how I managed to go jet skiing when I was 8? Has he not told us this story yet? That's kind of impressive. You were initially stunned that he'd guessed what you were thinking, though given the topic of conversation and the direction of your gaze, it was a natural conclusion to reach. Not bothered by your reaction, Cove continued with a shrug. I don't mind telling you, it's nothing special. He rubbed the back of his neck, grinning sheepishly. Mostly, it's just really dumb. You nodded. That was something you'd like to hear more about, especially knowing that no lasting harm had come of it. Cove stared into the distance, lips parted as you readied the story in his mind. So, me, my dad, and mom were at a party. I don't know if it was a casual get-together or a specific celebration. I hope it wasn't for something meaningful, considering how I ended it. He winced, then managed a bashful smile. Anyway, my mom and dad were off doing stuff, talking to people, I guess. I was left with the other non-adults. Most of them were older than I was. Maybe all of them were. His brow furrowed as he tried to recall dusty memories. Then he shrugged again and continued. The older kids were taking turns on the jet skis. There weren't enough for everyone to ride at once, so in between turns they were hanging out on the shore. I was meant to just sit there with them and watch. Remembering when you'd first met Cove, you bet that he hadn't been satisfied with that arrangement. He confirmed that suspicion. I was pretty unhappy. It wasn't a party for me, not when all I could do was look at other people have fun when I couldn't. The teens must have realized that, though I never hid when I was pouting as a kid. Only when you were a kid? Cove bristled with embarrassment. It looked pretty sulky to you. Come on, let me finish the story. Alright. Cove sighed, letting go of the interruption and picking up where he left off.
Well,
basically, someone offered to let me ride. I was way too small to drive it myself, but this older kid, they must have been at least 16, said I could sit in front of them while they controlled the jet ski. I know I wasn't supposed to do anything like that. Still, I figured my parents were doing whatever they wanted, so why couldn't I? I nodded at the person, and I remember the other teens helping me onto the jet ski, along with the one driving. We sped off into the water. Cove smiled widely and wistfully. It was amazing, at first. My hair was flying everywhere as we zoomed away from the shore. I loved being out on the water like that. Too bad it turned out steering a jet ski with an 8-year-old sat on your lap was harder than a bunch of kids figured it would be. The team tried their best, but they couldn't keep control for long. We got spun around and went right into the sand. You sucked in a deep breath. The other person wasn't hurt. Thankfully, they held onto the bars and stayed in their seat. I didn't. I was thrown at full speed onto a rocky part of the shore near the dock. Ow, that sounds painful. No wonder his arm was so beat up. I must have tried to brace for impact or catch myself, because my arm is what I mostly landed on. He looked down at the limb in question. You could see him visualizing the long-healed injury. It was pretty torn up. After that, it's hazy for me. I got taken to the hospital. I didn't feel a lot of pain when it first happened. All I remember thinking about was how I was covered in sand and the grains were uncomfortable. The sand was uncomfortable? Cove chuckled. I know, right? I did start feeling my arm later. It definitely hurt eventually. The doctor said my arm was broken, along with being torn open. That's how I ended up getting my pink cast. He smiled nostalgically. That color, it seemed just nice and happy at the time. It brightened the mood, so I picked it. The smile faded. He finished the story with a sigh, his eyes downcast. I feel bad I did, let's try that again. I feel bad I did any of that. I hope whoever that teen was, they weren't traumatized by seeing a little kid going flying into the ground. They were just trying to do a nice thing. Cove threw arms out to the blah 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 blah. Cove threw arms out to the side dramatically. I wish I knew who they were so I could give them a call and say I'm still in one piece. But yeah, that's the full story. I'm gonna say I'm so glad you're both okay in the long run. That's the important thing. Cove sighed again, the regret written plainly on his face. It was a failure, that's just the truth. He smiled flatly. But to my credit, I think I've grown a lot since then. Wait. Cove's eyes went completely wide. Suddenly reinvigorated, he seized his phone and tapped away at the screen. What's up? I knew it. You weren't sure that he'd heard you, but he set the phone down and turned to face directly to you. His face was resolute, though the glow of the screen was no longer reflecting in his eyes. They seemed to sparkle even brighter than before. Jun, we're adults. We can decide things for ourselves now. I mean, yes, this is true, Cove, but maybe don't say that right after talking about how reckless you were as a kid. We're just gonna go with okay. Or your other. No, we'll go with. We'll just go with a neutral okay. The age requirement to ride a jet ski in California is 18. We could totally do it. Okay, I did kind of know where this was going. But hey, that sounds like fun. Let's use our adult powers for a jet ski adventure. Yeah, more exciting things adults can do. Let's go with... Yeah, let's use our adult powers for a jet skiing adventure. That sounds like fun. Cove beamed, pumping the air with both fists. Definitely the action of someone mature enough to rent a vehicle. Alright. Within a moment, Cove had recovered and returned to his serious expression from before. I'll be careful, and I really want you to be there when I try again. Please? His voice was soft and earnest. You could tell how much the request meant to him. You also knew him enough to know that he wasn't going to give up on this idea. Letting him go on his own wasn't an option. Of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it. I'd say I'd be interested in trying jet skiing. I've never been jet skiing. It could be fun though. Cove perked up at once, a grin stretching wide across his face. He was practically bouncing in place. Let's go. You got up and worked as a team to gather everything needed for the trip. Cove's other aquatic hobbies came in handy, and he was quickly kitted out with everything he needed other than the jet skis themselves. You needed to run back home briefly, having dressed and prepared for a day that didn't involve jet skiing, but soon enough you're both ready and jumping into Cove's car. As you got in, you learned that Cove had used the brief time apart to locate a rental store on his phone. You caught his eye as you clicked your seatbelts into place. Excited, you held out a hand. Cove slapped in a high five before setting off. You and Cove soon arrived. The ocean was perfectly inviting today, the deep blue of the water glittering under the clear sky, while the tide rolled in and out at its leisure. I'm so excited for this. His excitement was adorable. That is true. Yeah, probably this one. I don't think I'm as excited as he is, but I'm also not really worried about it, so say his excitement is adorable. Seeing how pleased you were, Cove grinned at you.
Hey.
Wanted to say hi to my dad while we're here? I've already texted my mom about the plan. He's working right now. You remembered how close the shop was. It wouldn't take long, even by walking. Sure, we can do that. Mr. Holden was a great guy, so you were happy to check in on him.
Sorry.
Thanks. Sorry, it might be kind of awkward when he hears why we're here, but it should be alright. I mean, my parents forgave me a long time ago for that amazing stunt. I didn't want to be scared off jet skis for my whole life because of it. You wondered which of you Cove was attempting to reassure. It was only a short walk back down the dock to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. Cove breezed in, as familiar with the store as he was with his own home. The place was quiet, empty aside from a couple customers quietly browsing, and Cove's dad behind the counter. Mr. Holden looked up, his friendly expression spreading into a grin when he saw who had just entered.
Hey!
Hey June, hey sport, what brings you all the way out here? He cast an eye at the way the two of you were dressed. Judging by how you're decked out, I'm guessing scuba diving? There's plenty here for that. What can I help you with? Cove chuckled, amused by how quickly his dad seized on a favorite topic. Or maybe it was how his dad always fell over himself trying to be useful. Hi Dad, we're not doing that this time. We sort of decided to go rent a couple jet skis. The phrase jet skis had set Mr. Holden's mouth in a taut line immediately. Jet skis. He echoed the words as his eyes instinctively darted to the scar on Cove's arm. That's that's when Mr. Holden started to speak several times, each attempt quickly abandoned. Cove smiled encouragingly, trying not to add to his father's worries.
Don't worry about it.
I promise I'll be careful, and June will be there too. We always look out for each other. Mr. Holden pinched his face back into an unconvincing smile.
Right.
Alright, you're a whole lot bigger now than you were back then. Heck, you can drive a car and everything. I'm sure you and June will have plenty of fun. The worry still echoed out in his voice, barely concealed by the positive words, but Cove was buoyed by his father's support. Yeah, well, we're all set. We only stopped by to say hi and let you know since we're over here. Mr. Holden beamed, obviously moved by his son's simple consideration. Wow, you're so thoughtful. Thanks for taking the time. Cove gave his dad a crooked smile, shaking his head bashfully. He'd long stopped fighting his dad's effusive praise, but that didn't mean he'd ever become good at accepting it. Mr. Holden simply laughed at his son's response. It'd be great if you could keep me in the loop while you're out there too. Just text me and let me know if it's going well or anything. I will. His dad smiled more easily.
Great.
Cove rubbed at his arm, causing Mr. Holden's eyes to momentarily twitch back to the childhood injury.
Bye.
We're gonna head out. See you later. Take care. See you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden waved you off as you left the store. The pair of you headed back to the docks, walking side by side. After your feet hit the boards, Cove's pace fell. Glancing over, you saw him looking down, out over the water. That wouldn't have been unusual if his expression hadn't been so somber. He wasn't geared up with anticipation or even nervousness, but with an uncharacteristic lethargy. Lethargy. I don't know why that sounded wrong. Anyways, something was weighing heavy on his mind. You're gonna walk right off into the sea if you don't pay attention. What's up? Huh? He blinked, startled by you interrupting his rumination.
Sorry.
He sighed, though. Wow, my brain just stopped reading there. Okay, he sighed, though you turned his attention from the ocean. It gradually drifted back to the water. You cleared your throat, unwilling to lose him again. Sorry, again. He put his hands to his face, rubbing his eyes wearily. Here I go, thinking everything's resolved with what's happened and we can have fun. But I can't just enjoy anything. I had to find something else to get stuck in my head. You having second thoughts about jet skiing?
No.
No, that's not it. The ends of his lips were drawn into the beginning of a frown, like gray clouds clustering to signal a coming storm. I figured my dad would be a little worried about me doing it, but what he was saying, it wasn't what I expected. He was so sad. It was more than nervous. I think he feels bad, and now I feel bad, but it isn't as if I'm the only one who's ever done something stupid or gets hurt. It got me thinking about that whole time. That's when I realized it wasn't long after that accident that my parents separated. Oh no, don't you go blaming yourself for that. I'll stay quiet. As a kid, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions, you know? Or maybe how what I did impacted other people. Why should anyone care? I'm the one doing it, not them. It made no sense, and I still cared when other people did things I didn't like. But I was 8 and mostly just mad that nothing felt like it was in my control. You could tell that he was building up to something, so you nodded for him to continue. There we go. Sorry, I had to readjust my microphone. I think it's in a better position now. Although I'll probably need to change it again because I'm getting a new chair. So I'll probably... whatever. I need to stop getting distracted. But I regret that. I was pretty difficult to deal with because of that attitude. But looking back, I think that's what saved me from something a lot of kids go through. Blaming themselves for their parents' divorce. It never crossed my mind that anything I did made a difference on my mom and dad's relationship. They would do what they would do what they did no matter what. Now though, I guess it's kind of hard to ignore that thought, huh?
I mean,
Their situation was already so hard and I wasn't a good kid, so he left his words adrift as he looked down, the conclusion unfinished. It was silent between you. But only for a second. Cove pulled himself up to his full height, his chin held aloft. Whatever he decided, he was resolute. I'm going back. I've got to talk to my dad. I'm not going to let things be like before, where I just feel crappy and refuse to tell him what's going on. That doesn't work for either of us. You can go ahead. Or you can go ahead if you want. I don't mind. I still really want to do this, and I'm sure it'll be okay. I think I'll stay. There needs to be an option asking if he wants me to stay, because it's like, this could be something he just wants some one-on-one time with his dad. Although, I could also go help like cover the shop or something for him if they do need one-on-one time, because his dad is working at the moment. We can use that as an excuse if need be. Okay, well, I say I want to stay with you. We always look out for each other, remember? Cove smiled gently, having wanted that deep down. Thanks, let's go. You and Cove retook your steps down the dock once more, heading back to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. The customers you'd spotted in here before were now leaving the store, new bags clutched in their hands. You hoped that this would mean Cove could have his conversation without a public audience. This time, Cove strode inside the shop with purpose. Mr. Holden, still at the counter, glanced up to greet whoever had come inside. He grinned as you approached.
How's it going?
Hello again. Forget something? Sort of. Cove had reached the counter now. You needed to rush just to keep up with him as he crossed the show floor. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow, taking in Cove's shift in attitude, and chose his next words with care. Is everything alright? Cove swallowed, not answering initially. Talking openly with his dad was somewhat new for the son. You knew that he was struggling for the right way to begin. I wanted to ask about what happened. Mr. Holden winced as if the words had struck him physically. The accident? No, the divorce. The pained expression fell from Mr. Holden's face. Wide-eyed, his jaw slack, he gaped at Cove.
Huh?
Why? Cove glanced over his shoulder at you. As your eyes met, you saw him draw confidence by having you by his side. He turned back to his father. I want to know the truth. His tone was grave. Did me getting into the accident hurt your marriage? If I hadn't done it, would you and Mom have gotten along better? No, hell no. Mr. Holden quashed the suggestion with a gravity you'd rarely heard in his voice. You were 8 years old. You were not responsible in any way. Kira and I should have protected you. I can understand why you're feeling that way. I can understand why you're feeling that. What happened was so horrible. How could it not have had an impact? It did. It was a reflection of us as parents. The relationship between just your mom and me was separate and already unsalvageable. Cove turned away, his brow still furrowed as he looked at the floor.
Well,
maybe I'm being anxious and it's taking over, but it wasn't just then. I always caused problems. He plowed on, unwilling to give up without explaining his worries. What if I'd been easier to raise, or if you'd had me later on? Maybe even if you didn't have me at all, it might have been better for the two of you. If I didn't have you, then what good would my life be? Mr. Holden didn't let the words hang unchallenged in the air for even a second. He hurried over to Cove, taking his son's arms in his hands. Cove, listen. There's only one person to blame for things not working, and that's me. Cove opened his mouth to speak, but Mr. Holden forced on, determined to ease any question in Cove's mind. I'm not saying this to dishonestly push accountability off from someone else or to throw a pity party for myself. You want to know the truth, so that's what I'm giving you. Your father is the reason our family couldn't stay together. You think you caused trouble? You should have seen me at your age. You're such a good kid. I can hardly even believe how good you are. Mr. Holden's eyes were misty as he squeezed his son's arms. There's nothing, absolutely nothing, you need to blame yourself for. I'm sorry, Cove, to you and to Kira. Mom? Yeah, your mom. His pained face eased slightly into a bittersweet smile. Kira, she was just so smart and driven and completely bursting with life. It was as if she could do anything. You know, there wasn't a single solitary person who didn't want even a piece of her attention, just to catch her eye for a moment. But for some crazy reason, she had a soft spot for my 17-year-old screw-up self. That's when we first met, though it definitely took some time before I managed to ask her out on a date. Mr. Holden shook his head, the smile melting as his recollection became solemn once more. And then we'd only been officially together for about 6 months when we found out we were having a baby. I was so worried, so scared, but she was so brave. She was my rock, but we both knew the road ahead was going to be rockier. When we got married, I didn't see it as a dream come true. I was about to start living my life in the only way I could imagine doing so. I thought what happened, and throwing my cards in with a girl like her was worth the risk. He grimaced, the sentence sour in his mouth, regretting his past perspective. I've been taking care of myself on my own and getting by, then all of a sudden I was going to have a wife and a child. So I thought, alright, I better step things up and take care of all of us, and that's what I did, sort of. He rolled his eyes. I made money, kept a roof over our heads, and put food on the table. But I was always busy, focused on taking care of things, that I didn't stop to consider what anyone else was thinking or what they actually needed. I made every decision about what I did, and as a result, what happened to the family by myself. Never asking what your mom felt or even wondering if she might have an opinion. I'd tell Kira about the great plans I'd found and how we'd be moving there. I'd tell Kira about the great place I'd found and how we'd be moving there in the same breath. Or that I'd spend all our savings and take out a loan to start this business we're standing in, and even more nonsense. Anything I felt I needed to do, I did. Kira couldn't even ask where I'd been all day without me rolling my eyes, like she was being a nag. I was making sure we didn't starve, obviously, right? Couldn't she trust me? He sighed, his head hung low.
God.
She went to school part-time while raising you, really knuckling down, but that didn't matter to me back then. She could have spent her days lying in bed, not dying, and I would have felt the same. I didn't care. I was going to get it all done on my own either way. It's so stupid. I admired her more than anyone when there was nothing at stake, Yet as soon as responsibilities were involved, I couldn't let myself rely on her. He combed a hand through his hair, searching for an understanding of his own younger self. I'm not even sure why. Maybe I had something to prove. Maybe I'm the one who didn't trust her in the end. Poor Kira. She had to spend every day mentally weighing the pros and cons of putting up with my horrible ideas for the sake of peace, or trying to explain to my blockheaded self what I was doing wrong. It must have been so stressful and frustrating, constantly having to let everything go because I was stubborn and absolutely would make a fight out of it. He snorted bitterly. I was definitely stuck in my head a lot of those days. Our relationship at that point was made of arguments and cool tolerance, but I still generally didn't see the divorce coming. We made it through the first few years, and after that, I never really considered it ending. It was just how life was. In retrospect, it's clear Kira kept thinking on it more every year, especially because she managed to finish her journalism degree, and with us being more stable, financially that is. She thought of everything. She even timed it right when your school ended. For the year, so the process would hopefully be all settled before you had to worry about classes again. We were already talking about before the accident ever happened. I know I took it really hard, being a sad sack all around the neighborhood, but even that is unfair on me. When it shook out, I'm the one who got everything. Kira didn't want to leave U Cove. She never would have. I'm certain she felt like she had no choice but to end the relationship. The business was doing really well by then, so I had an easier time making a living. She was between jobs, and when she did get a new job, it meant that she'd be traveling all the time. That's why she willingly accepted me having full custody. She didn't get to be there with her child for so many moments, and you had to spend half your life growing up without your mother, and that's my fault. Mr. Holden closed his eyes briefly as he took a breath. So that's it, the story of Cliff and Kira's marriage. Not exactly a fairy tale, but I wanted to be clear. You saw his grip on Cove's arms tighten. No matter what happened with me and her, I'd never ever want to miss out on being your dad. Cove's throat bobbed as he swallowed. His eyes glistened, glossy with tears that had yet to fall. He blinked quickly, trying to hold them back. Thank you for telling me. His voice was hoarse, little more than a whisper. Mr. Holden brought a hand up to his face, lightly nudged, and Mr. Holden brought a hand up to his face and lightly nudged Cove's chin. You're welcome. You're a grown-up now, right? You deserve the truth. That's the least I can do for you. Cove managed a fragile smile. Thank you for taking care of me for all of it. Mr. Holden brushed the compliment off with a wave of his hand.
No worries.
It was nothing. Look at where we ended up. We've got this whole entire store, a house, friends here, a very thoughtful son. It's all good for me.
I'm so glad.
His voice was quiet, and he ducked his head shyly after saying the words. Mr. Holden patted him on the back. You could see the tears in Cove's eyes still shining, threatening to spill over. Mr. Holden put an arm around his shoulders, gently steering him towards the door. You should go have fun. Make some nice memories. Cove's gaze flickered over to you. The watery smile on his face solidified. All right. Good. Now, out you go. Mr. Holden nudged the two of you out of the shop. You both walked silently as you made your return to the docks. Cove's face was pensive, clearly still digesting everything his dad said. He finally sighed, catching your attention. He hesitantly reached for the bag he had brought and raised it up.
June.
I want to call my mom. I'm not going to leave her out of things, and I want to know what she thinks about what happened and all that. He fiddled with the straps of his bag. It still remained closed shut. It's not like I don't trust Dad, it's just Mom's thoughts are important too. I get it, Cove. There's two sides to every story after all. He seemed relieved that you understood. You knew he didn't want to be a bother with another delay. Thanks. Nope. Thanks. Then I guess there's no time like the present. Time to ask. With that mini pep talk, he finally opened his bag and found his phone. Cove unlocked it quickly and tapped over to his favorite contacts. He called up his mom and put the phone on speaker as it dialed. Kira must have had her phone close by because she answered almost immediately.
Cove.
This is a pleasant surprise. I thought you'd be getting back to me later. Hey, Mom. He paused for a second and then looked at you. You're on speaker with June, too. I'm just gonna say hello. Oh, hello. I'm popular today. Well, what's going on? Don't keep me in suspense. Are you a pro jet skier already? Cove chuckled and scratched the back of his head. We haven't started yet. Actually, there's something I kind of want to ask you about.
Really?
I'm intrigued. Her voice was bright and excited. Cove moved the phone close to his face so he could speak softly, aware that the tone of this conversation was about to change. I was talking to Dad earlier. It was about your relationship and why you two both divorced. Ah, that one syllable had lost all her earlier energy. Cove tightened his grip on his phone. It does make sense that the past would come up today. Yeah, but he tried to brighten up the mood again. You weren't used to him being the perky one of the two. You could only imagine it felt like a strange role reversal for him. Dad said you were really amazing. He admired you a lot. What a flatterer. She sighed wistfully, and you could hear some interference. Maybe she had shaken her head. You couldn't tell for sure. Oh, Cliff. He bungled himself through regular, everyday adulting and social situations in astoundingly charming ways. Yet, somehow at the exact same time, he was an ambitious, slightly shady, under-the-table type man when it came to making his living in the world. So essentially, your father was an absolute heartthrob for someone such as myself. Cove and Kira laughed delicately. The tension was broken into something lighter, more familiar between the two. It's cool you both have nice things to say about each other. I agree, baby. She took a moment before continuing carefully. Do you have questions about what happened? I'm not sure. Cove squinted at the phone in his hand as he tried to think, his free hand brushing through his hair. I just kind of want to know how you describe what it was like. Could I tell you what Dad said about it?
All right.
I don't think Cliff would mind. Whatever he told you is probably what he'd say to me. Alright, go for it. After taking a breath, Cove recapped Cliff's experience, doing his best to follow his dad's story. He went into a surprising amount of detail, and not a single thing was missed. Kira listened on in absolute silence, letting her son speak without interruption. When Cove finished, he took another deep inhale of air. So, what do you think? Kira sighed softly. You heard a clacking noise like she was drumming her nails on the back of her phone or on a countertop. That definitely sounds like Clifford. It's not exactly wrong, but he doesn't have a total picture. He puts the emphasis on the wrong places, I think.
Huh?
What do you mean? For starters, Cliff unsurprisingly downplayed himself more than he had to. He did? Cove's eyebrows raised and his face continued to inch even closer to the screen. Well, since your dad was so praising of me, it's only fair to return the favor. When Cliff said he was already taking care of himself when he met me, he means he was on his own. Cliff's own parents weren't and still aren't friendly people. They've always had a combative relationship, though him getting into drinking and gambling as a teenager certainly didn't help. He knew they'd kick him out at 18, so he saved them the trouble and left home at 17. He always found a way to make it work, even without support. I met him a few months after that. We hit it off right away. He wasn't exactly what I wanted, he was exactly what I wanted back then. We dated, and then about half a year later, bam, you were on the way. She laughed fondly as Cove clung to every word. I was really optimistic about it all. I couldn't wait to be a mother, and I was more than happy that Cliff was the father who'd be along for the ride. We got married quick, before you were born. Cliff's recollection of our wedding dynamics is pretty spot on. He was extremely stubborn and just, well, immature. Highly, highly immature. Her voice raised slightly, and you got the feeling she was thinking back to her memories living with him. She left the specifics unspoken. But it's not like I was grown up either. Everyone, except maybe Cliff, could see our relationship was no good, or at least not good enough yet to commit to. I knew, but I didn't want to give it up. I wanted to keep the family together. I thought that if we divorced or were never together, then we'd ruin your life, Cove. Am I moving to 2D soon? I'm hoping to, yes. I'm not sure when I'll get a 2D model made, but yes, that is the plan, to get a 2D model as soon as possible. I have everything else set up. I found an iPhone on a really good sale, so I actually have the tracking camera set up for it. But yeah, I don't actually have a model yet. But yes, that is the next thing I'm gonna work on, is getting a 2D model. I'm super excited. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that I might be able to get at least a temporary partial model by the end of the year. Ideally for my birthday in October, but we'll see if that'll happen. But I might get a simple 2D model soonish, and then get a proper model later on. But we'll see. No, I haven't heard this. Obviously, that wasn't true. I just didn't have enough experience at the time to realize there wasn't only one option for us. Maybe things would have been easier on you if we had split when you were still a baby, but it took me years to start figuring it all out. Cove nodded, even if his mom couldn't see it, thinking hard about something. He was likely remembering his own experiences back then. We were married, but never seriously loved each other. We hardly knew each other. I don't mind that Cliff never viewed marrying me as some kind of dream come true. I honestly just appreciate that he tried giving my hastily made life plan a shot. I was the one who proposed after all, got down on one knee and everything. She huffed slightly, something between a chuckle and a sigh. It's very funny and a little sad that Cliff still doesn't know why things changed between us. It's obvious to me, and I guess he does know deep down. He just never consciously made the connection.
It's all right.
I'm not even mad he didn't stay the same towards me. Love makes everything different. But you said... I know what I said. She interrupted before Cove could even finish his blurted out interjection. I don't mean Cliff and I. We were just two kids in a relationship that only ever worked when it was at its easiest. And then you were born, little Cove James Holden. I loved you immediately, and so did your father. Cove was stunned. His eyes started watering as his mouth clamped shut. The inclination we had towards each other paled in the face of that. Our love to you was the real deal. Cliff was the proudest papa. Then, in true Cove fashion, tears began to fall. He stayed silent, but you were pretty sure Kira knew the effect her words had on her son. No matter how much time passed, Cliff never got over how amazing it was that such a precious little boy was his. I should have taken pictures of how he puffed up whenever someone referred to you as his son. She sounded much cheerier now. A slight smile crept on Cove's face despite his tears. Then again, he still does that now. It wasn't hard to imagine Mr. Holden lighting up around baby Cove, the same way he did with 18-year-old Cove. I remember how, when a real argument started brewing, Cliff had a habit of walking away to cool off. He wasn't able to handle it. His son seems to have taken after him in that way. You heard her chuckle, and Cove looked down, a blush clear on his cheeks. You could just feel her smirk through the phone. She breezed over the next section airily. For a whole relationship, he always ended fights by skipping out on me for who knew how long. I don't think even Cove knew when he'd come back. Even Cliff. I can read. That stopped when you were born. Cliff stopped running. He was still gone a lot for work, and we still had fights, but he wouldn't leave. Instead, he'd go to your room. If you were asleep, he'd just sulk on the ground by your crib until you woke up. Sometimes he'd pace the room while holding you, or sit on the floor and rock you. He'd stay with you until one of us decided we were ready to talk again. We didn't have a lot of furniture back then. That's part of the reason why Cliff was always hanging out on the floor. He really came to embrace it. When our relationship got bad enough that we didn't want to share a bed anymore, he always made sure I got to have the mattress. He instead set up a spot in the corner of the nursery, just in case you needed anything through the night. He gave you a more private space when you got bigger, but he still always made sure he could be there for you. There's still no denying whether Cliff understands or not. He made his choice without prioritizing me. But it wasn't that he suddenly hated me. To Cliff, I was only a wife on paper. In his mind, I was a cool girl he had dated and generally liked, nothing close to being the light of his life. All his blood, sweat, and tears weren't for himself or me or even the family unit. They were all completely and totally for his baby. Meanwhile, I was doing the same, though in the opposite way. I did take us being married seriously. I was trying to force us together as a couple so we would be a complete family for our child. You felt like a fly on the wall for a very personal conversation. Cove didn't seem to know us when you looked over at him, his face a complicated patchwork of emotions.
I guess.
Ow. I just popped my elbow. Anyways, eventually I woke up and saw what I was doing. I realized it wasn't going to work, not like that. When I was ready for it, I talked to Cliff about separating and starting up the divorce process. He was shocked by it, and unfortunately, it wasn't too long after when you had your accident, Cove. June, I don't know how much Cove really told you about it, but when he broke his arm, it terrified all of us. Cove could have died. Even back then, we knew he'd likely have a permanent scar. Okay, let me try that again. Even back then, we knew he'd likely have a permanent scar he'd have to live with forever. Our parenting hurt our child, and he was the one who'd have to carry the repercussions. You're a bit taken aback to be referred to directly. You still felt a little out of place, and she seemed completely focused on her son. Cove grimaced, and the hand holding his phone shook. Mom, Kira continued as if she'd never paused. It was heartbreaking, and then on top of it all, we had to put you through your parents breaking up. Taking that back wasn't an option, despite the timing. It felt like everything we had worked so hard for, to make you happy, was for nothing. I chose to believe we'd fixed our lives from there, but to Cliff it seemed hopeless. He'd failed his son. It was easier for me in some ways. I had my family to lean on. That made it feel less daunting, less impossible. Cliff only had ever really known being on his own, by the happenstances of his birth and then by choice. When we broke up, he knew he was going to have to put back the pieces of what was left, alone. I wanted to be there for him, even after everything, but I was the one divorcing him. It was impossible. I never managed to be someone he truly relied on, and I had to remember that wasn't changing. As bleak as it felt at the time, Cliff still tried not to let any of that show to you, Cove. He did what he could to keep your spirits high about the move, your house, the scar, everything. Okay, now his dad paying us to be Cove's friend at the beginning makes a lot more sense and is actually a lot more touching. It seemed so random before, but now it makes so much more sense. So that's why Cove trailed off. He had misunderstood the impact his injury had on his parents. You're reminded of something that made more sense now. Mr. Holden had been so helpful with Cove's old Halloween costume because he didn't want Cove to be saddened by the scar. It was clear Cove was coming to the same realization. Now, with all that said, if I can't read. Okay. Now, with all that said, if Cliff was a completely perfect and wonderful guy, I wouldn't have left him. It was even pretty good if it was even pretty good, I would have stayed. It was hard not to have It was hard not to have custody. Sometimes I felt like I was a fun aunt rather than the mom I always wanted to be. I might have overcompensated a little at times because of that. She forced a laugh, but it had an uncomfortable edge to it. You could tell she was trying to blow off a very real anxiety of hers. Cove looked ready to say something, but his mom kept moving forward. Still, it's not Cliff's fault alone that our relationship didn't work. We were always better as co-parents than spouses, but I knew when separating that it wasn't going to be even. And Cove, the only reason I could stand not being there for you all the time is because I knew that if the situation was reversed and I could have provided a more stable environment, Cliff would have done the same. Your dad would give up his house, his shop, even his right arm if it would guarantee that you were safe and happy. So, as painful as it was sure you'd be okay because you were still with someone who loved you more than anything else in the world. Cove lowered his head, tears falling to the ground. He tried to speak. It took him a few tries. Thank you for telling me. His voice cracked, and Kira made an alarmed sound on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to make you cry.
I get it.
It's okay. He was still crying. Everyone could tell, being physically present or not. I love you, Mom. You've always been my mom, not some aunt, my mom. I love you too. Her tone was thick with emotion. She was at the edge of a voice break herself. I'm so lucky to be your mom. She started to sniffle openly.
Don't worry about that.
Don't feel bad for me with how it worked out. I promise that none of it was your fault. And it's not as though I'm completely miserable over here. I have an incredible life with a beautiful baby boy of my own who calls whenever he can. At that, Ko's tears only came down heavier. Thank you. Kira sighed affectionately, and you could hear the warmth in her voice. I think that's good for now. Maybe we should end the call. Take a moment. Is that really alright? He tightened his grip on his phone. You could see how emotionally exhausted he looked.
Of course.
We'll be in touch soon. For now, you'll only be able to keep thanking me or apologizing.
Hey!
Cove cried out defensively over the accusation, making his mom snicker. Bye, and goodbye to you too, June. I'm glad you're there for my baby. See you. Bye, Mom. I love you. Love you too. Cove hung up. He let his hand drop to his side, his phone brushing the fabric of his sweatsuit. His other hand went up to his face. He tried to wipe the tears from his eyes. His face was red, and he struggled to put his phone back in his bag. And he struggled to put his phone back in his bag one-handed. You could tell he was getting worked up. He finally just used both of his hands and sealed his phone back into its normal place. Cove sniffled and then reached out to you. His hand trembled in your grasp, and you squeezed back. He needed to feel your support. You want to go see your dad again? He didn't have to tell you what was on his mind for this. Cove nodded his head weakly. You rushed back the way you came, feet pounding across the boards of the dock, to return to the scuba shop for a third time. You reached his dad's door, and Cove still wasn't slowing down. He pushed his way through the door at full speed. His hand released yours as he charged in. Mr. Holden had been walking around the middle of the store, checking over things. Immediately, he turned at the sound.
What's wrong?
What? Where's the fire? He froze when he got a look at Cove's face. He worriedly opened his mouth, probably to ask what was wrong, but then Cove launched himself at his father. Cove threw his arms around Mr. Holden's neck. He buried his face in his dad's shoulder and started to sob, with deep pitching breaths. Cliff clearly had no idea what was going on, and his hands hovered awkwardly in the air. He looked at you for a brief second, hoping for understanding, before turning all his attention on Cove. He wrapped both his arms around Cove's back. Cove looked secure in his father's embrace, protected and safe. It's okay. It'll be okay, whatever it is. It's gonna be okay. Cove kept crying. He inhaled deeply, his voice choked up when he tried to speak.
I'm so sorry.
You always tried to be there for me when I was growing up, and I was mean to you. I'm sorry.
What?
Mr. Holden was completely taken aback. He hadn't expected this to be the issue. You don't have to apologize for that, bud. Kids are allowed to be mad at their parents. It's my job to take care of you. I really didn't do anything special. Cove shook his head as emphatically as he could while still tucked in against his dad. You've always supported me no matter what. You've always loved me. I wish I realized how much you did sooner. Cove squeezed him tighter. Thank you. I love you, Dad. At his son's heartfelt confession, the father became choked up as well. He compressed Cove into a crushing hug. I do love you. I always will. You can count on that. I want to be there for you too. They clung onto one another, absorbed in the moment. Then, after a little while longer, they slowly began to loosen their hold. Cove sniffled and moved so he could use his palm to wipe away his tears. His dad's shirt was visibly damp where his face had been. Cliff patted the top of Cove's shoulders. He looked at his son with pride. You've grown up so much. Cove started to laugh through his tears, a wavering smile on his lips. You doubt that Cove would have ever thought that crying on his dad's shoulder was a sign of maturity, but it was true. Cove had changed over the years. You thought you understood Cove's dad a little better now? That is true, but I think we'll go with you were glad to see Cove grow. Yeah. Cove used to cry a lot over his parents, and he still did. Despite the similarity, the defining Coveness, there was a big difference between the two occasions. You were proud of him. Cove wiped out his eyes again. You're a good dad, and you're a good son. Mr. Holden was plainly touched by the words, and beamed at his beloved child. Cove looked away and shyly traced his scar. Cliff chuckled and released Cove to rub the back of his neck. The earlier panic had bled off and left the confusion. I'm glad we had this talk, but what was it that made you cry in the first place? You weren't too bad off when you left before. Oh. Cove ducked his head further down, getting a very good look at the scuff marks on the floor. I called Mom. I want to talk to her about all of this. He kicked one of his feet shyly, swinging it back and forth against the ground. Things felt really hard when I was younger, but it wasn't just me going through stuff. You never give yourself credit. Cliff smiled gently and gripped Cove's shoulders with reassurance. Kira is an amazing person to come to my defense. Oh, hello there. Welcome in. Who came in? Kimikster? Sorry if I mispronounced that, but welcome in, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you are... Does that work? That works. I hope you're all having a good day. What were you up to? I guess I can see. Let's see if I can remember how to do shoutouts. There we go. Did that work? There we go. Nope, that didn't work. Oh, yes, it did work. Aha, you're also playing Our Life. Well, I hope you all had a good time. I absolutely love this game. I'm having way too much fun with it. But yeah, welcome in everyone. Feel free to chat, feel free to lurk, whatever you want to do. And yeah, we're just gonna keep going on to the next chapter. I read that already. Why did... I don't know why that triggered twice, but... Anyways. Oh yeah, I forgot the stream avatars go crazy whenever there's a raid. Little bombs everywhere. Okay. For me, the only hard part was seeing you and her unhappy. Everything else, that was nothing. It was weird on your end where I canceled and came back. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes Twitch do be weird. He wrapped her arm around Cove's neck for another side hug. Cove leaned in to embrace and glanced up. Wow, I can't read. Cove leaned into the embrace and glanced up at his dad. Yeah, it's Cliff. That's a cute emote too. I like that emote. Your old man is tougher than he looks. Check out how powerful these arms are. And this is 10 years on. I was in my prime those days. Cove laughed. It was a light sound full of fondness. Okay. He quieted it down a little, finding a quick moment of seriousness. Thanks again, Dad. I know you don't want me to feel bad, and I'm happy. Because of everything you and Mom did, I have a really nice life. Mr. Holden's countenance became much more serious. He didn't take what was said lightly. Cove, you are very welcome. That's so good to hear. Then he let Cove go again. This time they both took a step back to their normal proximity. Mr. Holden cleared his throat. He looked at you right in the eyes.
That's a relief.
I also appreciate that you were here for support, June. What a loyal partner. Cove looked down, embarrassed. Thanks for finally noticing my presence. We'll just say I'm glad I could be here. When Cove stopped staring at the floor, you smiled at him. Cliff smiled warmly. He nudged Cove gently as if to say, "Look how lucky you are." All right. Cove exhaled slowly, his posture relaxing. We better get going. You still have work, Dad, and I think June has been patient enough. I didn't bring him here to watch me cry to my parents. Cliff grinned and waved the two of you off. Sure thing. I'm happy you both stopped in, but you gotta go have some fun, so be careful out there. I don't need to go jet skiing anymore. June, if you still want to go, I don't mind watching. No way. You are a mature young man, and if you want to jet ski, then you should go out and jet ski. I'll still be here if you need anything, alright? Yeah, okay. Let's go with... Oh, buy or take care of yourself. We'll go take care of yourself. Cove waved to his dad as he started walking out. You followed. When you turned back to Mr. Holden before you went out the door, he was waving. Bye, kids. You'll do great. Once again, as had become today's habit, you and Cove walked down the dock side by side. But this time, Cove had a bounce back in his step. His smile was soft but radiant. Thanks for staying, and sorry for how long it took. What to play? I'll just say you're welcome. It wasn't a problem to be there for him. Cove grinned at you, all grateful positivity and sunshine. The water lapped at the dock beneath your feet. Cove looked down when a particularly strong wave crashed against it. It's weird to think about my parents' relationship. There's all this stuff that I don't know because I wasn't there, or because I was just a kid, or because I didn't even exist yet. It feels really complicated. I'll just go relationships are complicated. You agreed with him. Connections to other people were as varied as there were waves in the ocean. Hey, Gonzalo, welcome in. What is this visual novel? It is called Our Life, and it is absolutely incredible. I'm obsessed with it. So, very quick summary. Basically, it's about you and the guy who lives across the street. So he moved in when you were both 8. You became friends, and then in the way I'm playing it, you become boyfriends in high school. It gives me free anime feeling watching this. I mean, yeah, they live at the beach and do lots of water sports. Not swimming per se, more like ocean sports, but yes. He is currently in a wetsuit because the plan is to go riding jet skis. And his dad also owns like a scuba shop and stuff, so they do lots of water sports. Hydrate. Good idea. Where's my hydrate button? There we go. Hydrate. I probably should hydrate because I haven't even finished 1 cup yet. Normally I do by this point. Although I did have like tea before stream also. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically a very brief summary of this game so far. It's absolutely amazing. I adore it. And yeah. Okay, Cove nodded without elaboration. He looked out into the ocean wistfully for a moment before he shook it off.
It's nice.
I'm happy they were married, even if they did stay together in the end. I'm glad you're feeling better. As for what I thought about marriage for himself now, I feel like now is not the time to ask that question. Or it could, or it could be a good time. But at the same time, if we're gonna go jet skiing, we should probably go jet skiing before the day's gone. But I'm kind of curious too. But I don't want to like pressure him into answering. Okay. I'm curious though. So we're gonna do it. You asked what he thought about marriage for himself now. Speaking of marriage, Cove's eyes widened curiously as he turned to face you. Are you scared of it because of everything that happened with your parents? You talked about your future together before, but now that you had more context for what Cove experienced in his family, you couldn't help but ask specifically about marriage. Cove shook his head shyly. He didn't hesitate for a second. No, surprisingly, I don't have issues about the idea of getting married someday. You looked at him, not bothering to hide your intrigue. He chuckled self-consciously at the reaction he got.
I mean,
don't get me wrong. Trying to actually propose would be terrifying. I'm sure planning a whole wedding would be so hard, especially for me, but just the thought of having someone I loved that I was married to, that I'd spend the rest of my life with, that doesn't scare me. It makes me happy to think about. Aww. The both of you snuck smiles at each other. The color of his cheeks deepened as his voice grew smaller. Are you thinking about how you might want to get married sometime? Yes. Yeah, I'll say yes, I'd like to get married eventually. It was freeing to admit that to Cove of all people. You may not have filled in the final blanks, but you both knew those words meant marrying him is what you wanted. Cool. That's cool. Marriage is, nice. He let out a trembling laugh and desperately searched for a way to calm his obviously rising nervous tide. He settled on changing the subject. Alright, no more distractions. Let's go. It's time to jet ski. Yeah, let's do it. The two of you began to more quickly make your way across the boards. Despite your excitement, you were both careful. Neither of you wanted an accident, especially after what happened with Co's first jet skiing trip. You finally got to the rental place. You were surprised at how easy the process was. Oh, look at that water. That looks nice. I could use a nice beach trip. It's probably not gonna happen until like October though. I started looking at my calendar, I'm like, I want to go to the beach, but this month I have stuff going on. Gonna have a trip next month, so I'm like, October. Which doesn't really sound like a very beachy time, but the weather should still be pretty nice. Okay. It took no time at all for Cove to climb on his jet ski with shaky legs. And we rented your own jet ski, yes. You'd spent the entire time wanting to jet ski and were thrilled to finally climb onto one. It was lime green with blue detailing. Ooh, that sounds nice. Sounds like a nice color combination. The jet ski rocked slightly as you got on, bobbing with the waves. You looked across the Cove. He sat motionlessly astride his jet ski, preparing himself to start it up. Even from your distance, you could tell his hands were clamped onto the handles too tightly. He was stiff and nervous. We'll say, yeah, it'll be alright, Cove. Trust yourself. He took a deep breath. You could see the rise and fall of his chest.
Thanks.
He inhaled slowly and started up the jet ski. It roared forward, and you were surprised you could hear him squeak over the sound of the engine. He stopped after a few seconds and breathed again. After he'd calmed down, he started it up once more. Ko sputtered and stalled with it for a while, going a little farther each time. He grew more comfortable with the feel. He continued to struggle with the jet ski, but he refused to let that stop him. He kept going until he wrangled the machine into submission. Cove eventually reached the point where he only stopped the jet ski when he had something to say. He kept shouting things at you. This is amazing. Did you see that, June? This is so great. Aw, it's so cute. You had gotten your own jet ski going as well. You made sure to keep a safe distance. Cove watched what you did with enthusiasm. Nice turn. He zoomed forward and you could hear his bright laugh ring across the waves. You were relieved he'd taken to it so well. Whether you were nervous about jet skiing, but you weren't bad at it. Knowing that jet skis could be dangerous, you kept a healthy caution over the vehicle. It was tricky at the start. You drove it short bursts, since each time you made it go forward, it seemed much too fast. You worried that you were going to fly off, or the jet ski would flip over. However, it didn't take you long to realize that you had a decent control over the vehicle. You grew more comfortable with the controls and let yourself relax a little. Eventually the sun set and you had to pack up. Cove was thankfully still in one piece, no cast necessary. After everything was returned, Cove dug his phone out of his bag and texted his parents to let them know all about his triumph. An idea to take a photo to mark the occasion struck Cove, and he wanted you to join him in the selfie. I'll just smile. You both grinned as you took the picture. It was a nice shot with the ocean stretching behind you. His phone vibrated after only a moment. Okay, you don't really need after twice. His phone vibrated only a moment after texting it out. Mr. Holden and Kira had likely been waiting the entire day to find out how this outing would go. And with the news of his success, both of Cove's parents said back how proud they were of Cove for how far he'd come. Watching him grinning in the setting sun after facing so many fears that day, you felt the same. Yay! That was a really good moment. A bit heavier than I expected, although it was called reflection, so that was kind of a given. But that was a really good one. I like that it fleshed out the parents' characters a bit more too. That was cool. Okay, and now we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna go refill my water. You run an ad break because Twitch likes you running ad breaks. So, gonna take a quick break. So feel free, get up, stretch your legs, get some food, get some water, do whatever you need to do, or just stay here and hang out, whatever you want. But I'm gonna take a quick break, go get some water, and then we'll be back in a couple minutes to continue on to the next moment. So yeah, be right back. Okay, I'm back. Got some more water. And once again, temporarily fixed my office chair. I really need my new one to arrive today. Because my current one doesn't have a wheel, or one of the wheels keeps falling off. So I have to be careful so the chair doesn't tip over, which is not good. In theory, I should have my new one arriving today, but I should actually check. I mean, it should be out for delivery. It shouldn't have been delivered yet today because it's still early. Okay, good. It is out for delivery, so it'll arrive. So it should arrive later this afternoon, and then I won't have to worry about my chair falling over anymore. Anyways, enough about me and my chair drama. It's not even really that drama. Anyways, let's start the next moment. This was called Late Shift. And we're starting off with Baxter. Okay. After lunch, you ran into Baxter. He was more than happy for an impromptu hangout in your neighborhood. He idly spoke about the first time he bought a shirt. What? He idly spoke about the first time he bought a shirt online. Okay. Apparently, the website hadn't been in English, so he had to make do with the automatic online translation. Well, that's a random story, okay. His unique fashion sense was eclectic in more ways than one. Finding out how he filled his wardrobe answered some of your questions about his look. He smiled in fond remembrance. I measured myself multiple times to make sure I could order the correct size. It wasn't as if I'd be able to ship it back if there were problems. But to make a long story short, it arrived in one piece, multiple months later. At that point, I wasn't going to complain. It was a physical object in my hands. He gestured with his arm for emphasis. As he did, Baxter, I can't talk. Baxter glanced at his wrist, at a watch that wasn't there. Okay, this cup of tea tastes weird. There's still like residue from my coffee, because apparently I didn't wash the straw out well enough. Well, that's kind of annoying. Anyways, that's what I get for not taking the time to properly wash my cup this morning. I was in a hurry, I got distracted, and lost track of time. You know what happens. Anywho. Anyway, I hope I'm not taking too much of your time with this. You had a few chores to do, but you were generally free. You weren't worried about it and shook your head. Baxter eased back and returned to chatting. The two of you meandered around the neighborhood, aimlessly walking as you talked. I saw Gove earlier. He was on his way to work, from what I gather in a brief chat, and from how, he was on his way to work from what I gathered in a brief chat, and from how he was dressed. Yeah, he's working at the old library as assistant. I want to work as a library assistant. That sounds like fun. I actually did that for like a day in high school, I guess? It must have been high school. I don't remember why we were volunteering at a library for a day, but we were. And I had way too much fun putting books back on shelves. You know, gotta love putting things in alphabetical order. I mean, I do anyways. I find it satisfying. Anywho, I think he found a good option for himself, especially with how limited jobs are in this town. Since you're free, perhaps we could do better than standing here? I'd be delighted to invite you over to my condo to chat more comfortably. Baxter's condo. You lived on the same street you lived on this street your entire life, but had never actually been inside. You were curious about it. Yeah, we'll just nod in acceptance. I will admit I haven't quite figured out how I feel about Baxter. He's a little much at times, but I do want to see what his apartment looks like. But I will need to leave before this evening. I have plans to visit Cove at his work too. Of course, I wouldn't presume to keep you. He made a grand, sweeping gesture directed at his place and led the short walk over. You followed beside him, stopping when you reached his front door. He opened it for you and welcomed you inside. It was a familiar threshold from your childhood. You couldn't help having a slight shiver up your spine as you thought of this condo's previous residents. Ooh, here's a twee. And a little dolphin. I do quite like this room. It's like simple, but I like the like kind of neutral color palette with a nice pop of blue. Very nice. I like the simple couch. I would normally have something with a higher back, but I like the wide arms. And yes, we must always pause and discuss the rooms whenever there are new ones because it's fun. I like the design of this room. It's very nice. You took a quick breath as you cautiously stepped into the condo. The first thing you noticed was just how unexpectedly nice and sleek it was. It was also clean and smelled faintly like some sort of unidentifiable air freshener. You had to wonder how much of this was due to whoever rented it out, the former residents or the current one. Regardless of the pleasant presentation, you were on edge. You couldn't help but stay on guard as if mean, not grandparents might jump out to yell at you at any moment. Baxter noticed something of your discomfort and raised an eyebrow. Is everything alright? I've never seen the inside of this condo.
Really?
He seemed generally surprised. The former neighbors never had you over for tea? Sounds out of character for this street. You snorted at the ridiculous thought of those particular prior visitors ever inviting you over. No, they weren't exactly nice. They were the opposite of that, really. I'm actually amazed I'm standing here now. Baxter's smile was curled as he ushered you the rest of the way inside and closed his door. I would like to hear more about this. Sounds like there's a story here. He sat on the sofa, first sitting properly before readjusting his position to comfortably forward crouch. He waved a hand towards his furniture, an invitation to take a seat yourself. Took a seat on a nearby chair. It was more comfortable than it looked. I mean, that chair doesn't look uncomfortable. So you want to hear about the mean not grandparents?
Absolutely.
My ears are open. You begin to give him the rundown of your past neighbors, explaining how they didn't like children and had a reputation among you and the other kids for being nasty. A long time ago, I almost ding-dong ditched them. I remember Cove was crying and Lizzie wanted me to ring the mean not grandparents doorbell. I didn't go through with it. She could have done it herself if she wanted to. Baxter chuckled at your non-prank story. Sounds like you. The two of you continued to chat until the sun started hanging lower in the sky. It could be seen falling through his large windows. You stood up when it was time to go and Baxter led you to the door. I think I'm actually going... I think I can't read. Let's try this again. I think I'm actually going on an outing to town myself. It's a good night for exploring. You nodded as you stepped outside. We'll do see you later. That's like my normal goodbye. Goodbye. I guess goodbye. I was gonna say goodbye greeting, but that's like the opposite. Goodbye parting? Whatever. The words. Yeah, I don't know how to word. Anyways. Goodbye, June. You parted in good spirits and walked off. You entered your house and got yourself ready to visit Cove. You were definitely looking forward to seeing him, especially if he's in a library. It's been for hours since I've gone to a library. Not really any reason why I haven't. There's one not far away, though it's a very boring library. Anywho. Lately, Cove had been working more often. You rarely saw him during his shifts for obvious reasons. He was busy. That was why it had been a surprise when Cove asked you to swing by. Maybe Cove was also thinking about how much his job had impacted how often you saw each other. Luckily, his place of employment was within walking distance. You wouldn't have to worry about getting a ride. The air felt heated around you, but with enough breeze to cool you off. You strolled past familiar buildings, not even having to think about how to get to Cove's job. You had gone down these streets more than enough times to memorize the way. It was easy to just enjoy the brief trip. Oh, you get all the books. I love books. Soon enough, you reached the local library parking lot. You headed right inside. Immediately after opening the door, you smelled the warm, solid smell of books. Oh, I love that smell. A bit stuffy, but it was a nostalgic feeling. I love the smell of old books. It's so good. Your eyes scanned the front room for a certain tall, green-haired assistant. Oh, Yucky, you look so snazzy. Or I know it's just like a gray button-up shirt, but it looks nice. You spot him easily at a desk. He didn't seem too busy. No one else was around. You stepped closer. He instinctively looked up from a stack of papers at the sound of someone approaching. Cove met your eyes with a welcoming smile when he realized who it was.
Thanks.
Hey June, thanks for coming. Hey, thanks for inviting me. Is stuff going good? Cove laughed quietly, his eyes alight with past amusement. You should have seen it. When I got here earlier, there was a huge fight going on with the schedule. I just tried to stay out of it. I'm lucky no one else wanted to close. It's not something I've gotta defend. Or I'm lucky no one else wants to close. It's not something I gotta defend. Some shifts are way too competitive. That is true. Well, I was kind of the opposite. In uni, I always wanted the Saturday morning shifts. Those are my favorites. And of course, no one else wanted Saturday morning shifts when you're, an undergrad in university. But they were my favorite shifts. He shook his head at the memory. You wondered how the shifts had been sorted out in the end. He didn't bother to elaborate further on his workplace drama. Anyways, yeah, it's fine. That was the most exciting today got. Good thing you weren't dragged into that problem. Or just decided not to comment. I don't think it needs a comment. He changed the subject, talking a little more detail about what else had happened during his shift. He told you about a new collection of books that had just come in. He was able to read the back cover copy as he put them away. There were some new interesting reads. Outside the strange shift argument earlier, Cove was having a decent day.
Oh,
Cove's eyes grew wide and then drifted off, his mind clearly elsewhere. Speaking of work, I gotta get back to it. That's what I'm doing right now. He laughed at how easily your presence made him forget the situation at hand. Take a seat or wander around a little. Try not to disappear, though. I won't be too long, I just have a couple things to take care of. He gave a significant look at the papers he had been sorting through before he had noticed you. Okay, I'll see you soon then. What do we want to do? On quiet table and waited. I think we're just gonna find a quiet table and wait. Yeah. The spot was near Ko's desk. If you let your eyes wander, you could watch him work. You pulled out your phone and played around on it to help pass the time too. As promised, Ko swung by again. He stood up straight, the task that had been at hand complete. Since you had a moment together, you struck up a new conversation. So do people hit on you a lot while you're working? You teasingly flirted with him. Also like working here. I feel like these ones are kind of the same. These are all good options. Let's go with... well, we'll just teasingly flirted with him. Hey, Cove. How do we want to teasingly? I might not need any books, but I do want to check you out. That's a little cringe, but it's also kind of good. I hope they pay you extra for the business you must bring in. Okay, do we want to do just like super cheesy and slightly cringe, or just not quite so cringe? How much of a dork do I want to be? I think we'll do this one. I might not need any books, but I do want to check you out. It's bad, but it's like so bad it's good. Cove turned bright red, his mouth opening in a small O.
seriously?
You're gonna say that now? Yes. Yes, I am. It's not a better time that line would work. That is a valid point. Well, you've said it. Yep, I did. I love it when the game and I are on like the same, excuse me, same wavelength and say the same thing. And you can be done. Alright. Oh, actually, you were suddenly reminded of your afternoon adventure at Baxter's place. Remember that mean not grandparent, or remember the mean not grandparents? I saw the inside of their home.
What?
He looked amazed, like he was just barely containing himself from peppering you with questions. Suddenly a thought hit him like a brick. Wait. He settled down immediately. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. The new person staying there is really welcoming. You overheard someone sounding frustrated as they couldn't find a specific book. Cove turned his head towards them without pause, his customer service smile already on his face. He gave you a quick nod and then headed over, disappearing into the labyrinth of shelves. It was a shame your conversations were so brief, but what else could you expect when he was on the clock? Seeing Cove acting so mature was different. He was like a real adult, and giving service with a grin, at least when he remembered he was supposed to be working. You were proud of him. It was nice to see him growing up. He had changed a lot over the years, and you were happy to see how much he had matured. You decided to walk around the shelves a little and explore. Every so often you'd see Cove. He'd be reshelving books or helping people find what they needed. He was good at it, always calm and quiet enough for the library. He took small moments to talk to you every so often, or smile in your direction. Eventually it seemed like it was time for some kind of book club. The library lobby flooded with people, all clutching their copies of what you had guessed was a satirical fantasy book. Cove got busier himself, pulling out chairs and arranging the area. You made the call that it was time to head out, since he'd have to be occupied for a while with all of that. He glanced over at you after he'd nudged a fake plant over to make room for another chair. You waved at him from near the front entrance. He frowned, but then switched right back to a smile. He gave a quick wave, before turning back to the book club event. You grinned. You felt buoyed to see Cove for a little bit. Wordlessly, you ambled back outside into the parking lot. The evening sun was warming your skin while you were taking the trip back home. You felt your phone buzz and stopped on the sidewalk. Then you pulled it out to check. It was from Mom. Would you mind stopping by the grocery store on your way home to pick up some asparagus and peppers for dinner tomorrow? Can't make it myself, the lights are tight right now. Thank you and have a great day. Didn't mind the request, though I don't particularly like asparagus and peppers, but that's beside the point. It could have been a lot worse. Asparagus and peppers, that was going to be a quick in and out, easy peasy. You answered back, no problem, can do. You weren't expecting her to text back anytime soon, though you did already get a thanks for it. Your phone remained grasped in your hand as you grew lost in your thoughts. Everyone was busy working nowadays. The only other person who wasn't was Liz, and you had no idea how long before that changed. You're aiming to make it without working a typical job? It was frustrating how you hadn't found a job that fit yet? We're gonna go with... I don't know. I mean, it's only the first summer after high school. I feel like it's fine to just like relax the first summer. You're aiming to make it... Let's do you're aiming to make it without working a typical job. Yeah. There are plenty of other options out there for your future, besides getting a position at a company. It was wonderful that your mom's never forced you to go down that route, and you were free to find your own way in the world. You were still inside of your head when another message came through. Looking at your phone, you saw that was Cove this time. Can we hang out again? Yeah, obviously. After I close at work this time. I could come by your house or something. Obviously, the answer is yes. A fond smile tugged at the corners of your mouth when the next message arrived immediately. Awesome, thanks. You were struck with the idea as your fingers hovered to reply. You'd already agreed to run by the store today. You can meet Cove in town. Actually, I'll meet you at work when you're done. I have to stay out running. Wow, I can't read. Actually, I'll meet you at work when you're done. I have to stay out running an errand anyways. Cool, I'll be here, obviously. See you later. How you smiley face. You finally put your phone away. You realize then that you may not have enough time to get to the store and back before Cove was off. You'd need to return to the library first. But what was done was done. To fill the little gap of space in between your new plans, you decided to sneak Cove more text while he was working or browse other places close by. Let's browse other places close by. We might as well spend it more productively. I mean, not that sending text to your boyfriend's not productive, but you know what I mean. Okay. Your feet took you down to where several of the touristy shops were located. It had been a while since you last poked your nose around what they were selling. As you approached the library building, you noticed a figure out front. It was Cove. His silhouette was instantly recognizable to you, even in the dim light of the parking lot. You could see he was smiling eagerly as you got closer. He had been waiting for this. What do we want to do? I feel like the answer is to do all of the above in that order. I'll run up to kiss him, sure, why not? You banded through the final steps to reach Cove and planted a kiss right on his face. It was too fast for him to respawn, but he chuckled approvingly. Hello again. Hi, Jun. His initial excitement at your arrival deflated quickly. Cove stopped being able to meet your eyes as he spoke more.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for earlier when you were visiting. It wasn't very exciting, was it? I hope I wasn't wasting your time. Okay, inviting me to a library is never a waste of time. I love a good library. It's never a waste of time to see you. Yeah, Cove, it's never a waste of time to see you. Oh. His smile reemerged, though only slightly. Then he continued his thought. It's just, with all the shifts I've been doing lately, I wanted to have you around some more. That's really all. It was to make my day better. But it's not like working has to be a good time, and there's better things you could have done. That's not what that says. It's not like working has to be a good time, and there's better things you could have done than watching me do stuff at a distance. What a precious man you are, I'm flattered. That's okay, there's nothing wrong with wanting some support. Yeah. I'm here for you. You grinned easily. You felt proud you were the one he called when he needed someone to lift his spirits. Cove flushed as you beamed openly at him. I'm glad my job doesn't have to get in the way of us being together. I feel the same way. Thanks. It worked out then. Cove reached out to you and you leaned into it. He gently held you against him as you relaxed against his body. It was comforting. What was that errand you talked about before? Are you still doing that? Yeah, would you want to come too? It was late and you knew that Cove wanted to go home, but admittedly you wanted company. He eased that concern by smiling softly. Sure, yeah, I can go shopping with you. You walked, right? Mm-hmm. Want me to drive you? Yeah, that would make things a lot easier. And also just make sense. No problem. It's nice of you to do this.
Not really.
Not really. I like spending time with you. Thanks. I like that too. Moments later, Cove had his things together and you're both ready to swing by the store. Cove pulled into one of the many free parking spots at the neighborhood 24-hour grocery store. Car doors were popped open and you got out at the same time. There was a salty smell in the air as the two of you strolled through the dim parking lot. The local burger joint on the other side of the pavement guaranteed the place always smelled like fries. Popcorn and chips. Your eyes squinted at the change of lighting when you made it inside the building. The automatic door is shut behind you. With you truly having arrived, Cove raised his brow curiously.
So,
what are we here for again? Asparagus and peppers. It's for something my moms are making tomorrow. Sounds good. This will be a short trip. You idly scanned the front room for a basket you could use. A full cart wasn't necessary. I mean, is a basket necessary if you're getting asparagus and peppers? Anywho. That was all there was it? Sure, we felt responsible having your parents rely on you. It was a recent change that you want to fully embrace. You spotted the basket and caught a glimpse of Cove's full appearance while looking down to pick one up. It's kind of weird to see you dressed in a uniform in a different store. Cove snickered while sidling up beside you.
right?
It's like I'm wearing a costume after Halloween is over. But I just hope no one thinks I work here. The uniform is totally different, but you never know. Basket in hand, you ambled towards the vegetable section. It was set near the back, but visible right from the entrance. Cove matched your pace, keeping at your side. The asparagus was simple enough to select. You simply picked up a bundle that looked fresh. All that was left was the peppers. There was a wrinkle in that plan. What color did they want? I was gonna say peppers is very vague. She didn't say. Then what are we gonna do? The color definitely matters. Yeah, we'll text real quick to ask. I think that's the best option. Yeah, might as well. He nodded, satisfied with your solution. You tried to fish out your phone why can't I talk? You tried to fish out your phone while balancing the basket. Cove held a hand out to take it. You accepted the help. With both hands free, you were able to type out a brief message to ask about the pepper colors. Then you stared, waiting at the screen. Cove hovered nearby to peek over your shoulder. The reply icon appeared, and you felt Cove lean in even closer. Just the regular green ones is what you sent back. Alright, that's easy. And he was right. You picked up the requested green peppers, tossing a few into the basket. Produce acquired, all that was left was to go through the line. But as you approached the cash registers, Cove stopped in its tracks. Oh, while we're here, I want to get something too. I need fruit for breakfast tomorrow. But what should I have? He glanced back unsurely at the section you just left. I can go back to look with you. That coaxed a small smile from Cove, his tension eased.
Sorry.
Thanks, and sorry. It's fine. We can take a little more time to do this. Cove gratefully led you back to the fruit stands. He let his eyes wander across all the options, seriously considering his decision. Not bothering to rush, you walked up and down the produce aisles for the second time that trip. Finally, something caught his attention. Transparent cases containing fresh blueberries. Cove grinned. Not bad. Blueberries are pretty good. They're certainly not my favorite berries, but they're not bad. That's it. It'll be perfect for tomorrow. Great. Despite the suddenness of how it happened, you were generally glad Cove was able to get something nice for himself during the visit to the store. It made the trip even more worthwhile. Cove carried his food himself, and the two of you went back to get a spot in line. After that, you completed separate orders for what you were going to get. The produce was packed away into paper bags. There was one for you and one for Cove. I mean, I feel like they could have put the blueberries in the same bag, but whatever. You both had what you needed in hand. The errand was finished. You walked across the length of the store to reach the doors closest to where you had parked. You and Cove stepped back into the night. Cove lightly swung his bag back and forth in his grip as you peered squinting into the dark parking lot. He smiled slightly, a gentle expression on his lips. Thanks for inviting me to the grocery store. Thanks for keeping me company. You're welcome. We should do this again. After a moment walking further into the parking lot, he sighed mildly. As nice as Cove was about this, he had to be tired after working a full shift. It's been a long day. Yeah. That very brief exchange really summed it up. Cove shook his head to himself, bemusement replacing his worn-down expression. When did a busy day go from having way too many ways... Wait, try that again. When did a busy day go from having way too many ways we wanted to play, or having some extra homework, to having to spend all day at a job, and then running errands after? I'll just go, I don't know. Me neither. Going to the store has so far been our best chance to spend time together recently. That kind of thing just happens, I guess. He seemed to run through how adult that made the two of you seem. You were now the grown-ups who catch up with each other in the bread aisle. Cove's eyes narrowed as his mouth opened slightly. He was having a thought.
I think?
Your moms need this stuff for tomorrow's dinner, not tonight, right? Uh-huh. And nothing's frozen, so you don't need to take it home urgently or anything. Would you want to go across the parking lot to that fast food place? We could get something. Yeah, burger date, let's go. I know it's still open. Doesn't matter how late it is. It might be nice. You pricked up at the suggestion. It sounded like fun. Alright, let's go for it. Let's drop the grocery off, so then we can go. You agreed, and Coach strolled over to the cars, buoyed at the thought of something to look forward to. He placed his bag in the back of his car and let you store yours inside as well. With the groceries taken care of, it was a short walk to the burger joint. There were 3 cars lined up in the drive-thru, which wasn't too bad. Oh gosh! Oh, and I'm getting hungry. You had to go all the way around the building to get to the front entrance, but soon you were under another set of bright fluorescent lights. Luckily, there was no line inside the building. so you stepped right up to the counter. You glanced over the menu. You remembered eating here before with Cove, back when Kira had taken you both years ago. The menu looked pretty much the same from what you could remember. It was missing the mozzarella sticks, but most of the other items were familiar. No mozzarella sticks? Oh no! Hello, what would you like to order? Yes, hello, I would like one of everything on your dessert menu. We burst out laughing or kept a straight face, it didn't surprise you. Alright, we're gonna laugh, that's kind of funny. He brushed a hand against the back of his head and his polite smile for them fully bent. Mom rubbed off on me. He was reminiscing on that visit too. After the cashier made sure Cove was being serious, it was your time to order. You got... oh boy, what do we get? So many things. Oh, they have chocolate chip cookies and apple pie? Oh dear, so many options. Let's do... Let's do some French fries. And... a chocolate chip cookie. And chicken nuggets. Do I want a drink? No, that's it. Cove gave you a little thumbs up. He wasn't the only one indulging. But I didn't indulge that much. I did get a cookie though. You wrapped up the ordering process, paid, got the number 264, and then claimed a table. You sat down across from Cove in a booth where you had a good view of the front counter. It was nice to have the pick of the place. Too bad the mozzarella sticks are gone. I'll do thanks for doing this, Cove. Don't worry about it. I wanted to do it too. Then you took out your phone to text your moms about your delay home. You didn't want them to worry. Cove watched you before pulling out his phone as well, maybe for the same reason you did. Then when the updates were sent, it was back to being just you and your neighbor once more. He offered you a small smile. I missed you, you know, even if you weren't ever really gone. It's been less time than I'm accustomed to. Cove tapped his fist on the table definitively. He paired that action with a childish pout. If someone saw him like that, they might have assumed he was throwing a fit over not getting the toy that comes with a kid's meal. We demand Muay Thai with each other. That is kind of cute. You're really cute. You're so spoiled. These are all good options. I don't know. I kind of like the we demand more time with each other. Just kind of play along with it. Yeah. You dropped your palms on the table for added emphasis. Exactly. He beamed at you sincerely, a ray of sunshine in this late-night food trip. When the number was called, Cove hopped up from his seat before you could react.
Don't worry about it.
I've got it. Save our spot. You nodded your agreement. Sure, we'll let him do it. You stayed in the booth and got situated for the arrival of all the stuff. You checked over the table and moved your phone to the side to make sure there was a clear space. Cove returned with 2 trays in hand, a great bounty of food. He placed them down carefully, being extra cautious with the trays that held his milkshake. I'm back. Thank you for carrying all that, Cove. It's no problem. Aw, Yuki's so cute. With all his ice creams and his pies. Cove didn't hesitate before digging in. He took a large bite of his cookie and immediately sipped his milkshake. Then he took a spoon and sampled his sundae with an approving hum. He made an attempt to follow that up with a bite of his apple pie as well, but failed with a distressed look on his face. You tilted your head in a silent question. Hot. That was... I don't know why that was so funny, but it was. He switched back to the milkshake, taking a dedicated slurp. Cove sighed at the cool relief it brought. You also started to taste yours. It really wasn't bad. In only a minute, Cove's cookie was gone. You wouldn't be surprised if the milkshake wasn't far behind. You flicked a straw wrapper at Cove. That's a good one. It's always fun to flick straw wrappers at people. Well, like people you know, not like random people. But like, you know, siblings and boyfriends and such. You teasingly offered to feed him his remaining... no. Tempting. Teasingly offered to feed him his remaining treats, but let's just flick a straw wrapper at him. You found the paper discard from the straw Cove used for his milkshake. You squished it into a small ball while he was distracted, and then very deliberately launched it at Cove. Your aim was true. It hit him square on the nose. Cove was shocked when it struck. Once he looked from the paper ball on the table to your mischievous smile, your attack finally dawned on him. He pouted and drank his drink with a feeling of a great betrayal. You snorted at his reaction, he snorted at his reaction when his lip wobbled. He broke into a smile and shook his head at the silliness. He scooped up the tiny ball and lobbed it back to your side. You felt so glad Cove agreed to come along with you on the initial grocery trip, and eventually happy you accepted his invitation here. Excuse me. A little time off your feet, a little something to eat, you felt more energized than before. You continued to chat, mess around, laugh, and enjoy yourselves. For the first time that night, you felt like you weren't totally grown up after all. Yay, that was cute. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to decide if we want to do one more. I think we might do one more. Yeah, we're gonna do one more, but we're gonna take another quick break first. I might grab some more water. I don't really need more yet, but maybe I won't. Well, yeah. Either way, we're gonna take a quick break. Gonna do run another ads, turn pre-rolls off. Well, that was a short one actually. That one wasn't even an hour long. So yeah, we'll do another one, but we're still gonna take a quick break first. Yeah, so feel free, get up, stretch your legs, get some food, get some water, do whatever you need to do, stay here and hang out, whatever you want. We're gonna take a quick ad break. I'm gonna go get some more water, and then we'll come back and we'll do one more moment, and then that'll probably be it for today. So yeah, be right back. Just a little quick break this time. Okay, on to the next one. Light filtered down through the leaves of an oak tree overhead, casting speckled shadows on the sidewalk all around you. There's a drop of sweat slowly making its way down the side of your face. You flicked it away with your thumb, slowing to a stop in the cool shade. The day had you out and about in town, in no hurry to go anywhere in particular. You had just gotten something to eat, and there was nothing planned for the rest of the afternoon. Your moms were at work, and Liz had left early in the morning to do something, you had no idea what. You took out your phone, idly noting the time when it started to buzz. You took out your phone, idly noting the time when it started to buzz. The screen lit up in your hand. Speak of the devil, Liz messaged you. Come home ASAP. Before you could even begin to question why, your phone went off again. Nothing bad, but you have to see this, so come back already. And with that final message, you were left only slightly less confused than you were before. You hadn't seen much of your sister lately. She had been acting strange for days, always shutting herself up in her room. Which would be so weird if at the dinner table she didn't suddenly start smirking to herself over nothing. The rare times you did see her, she would sneak you expectant looks like she was waiting to be asked what was up. But all your questions led nowhere. She'd answer you with a put-upon sigh, proclaim that she was busy, and tell you that she would have to talk about it later. No hints, no guessing. Whatever it was, she was determined to keep it a secret. Maybe now you'd finally find out what it was. As you did an about-face on the sidewalk and started heading home, you received more texts. To your surprise, the name that popped up on the screen this time was Cove's. Did you hear from Liz? About some urgent thing you have to see? She messaged Cove too. You weren't surprised. Liz teased him about it, but he was like family. However, you were struggling to understand how he fit into Liz's surprise. Yeah, Liz sent me the same thing. His reply came only seconds later as you waited across the street. I figured you would. Are you going to see what's up? I'm walking there now. Me too. Glancing up, you saw that light had changed to a walk sign while you were busy texting. You hurriedly wrapped things up, texting Cove a quick goodbye before crossing the street. It was fine, you'd be seeing him later anyway. Not expecting any more messages, you put your phone away so you could walk without having to worry about tripping over the curb. Thankfully, it was a short trek home, and soon enough you were walking up your street, the familiar face of your house already in view. Thinking of what might be waiting at home was making you worried, left you entirely lost, felt exciting. I'll say left you entirely lost. And the more you learned, the more questions you had. They were all buzzing around in your head, too many to try to pick out and make sense of. Lost in your thoughts, you almost didn't see who was walking further up the street. Cove. Even from the back, the bright sea green color of his hair was unmistakable. You quickened your pace to catch up to him, the scuff of your shoes loud against the pavement. He heard it instantly, not missing a beat as he turned towards you and slowed his steps in sync.
Hey.
Hi, here we are, at my house. At that, Cove gave you a wry smile. Here we are. It sounded almost like a question, wondering why the two of you had been summoned there. Any idea what Liz wants us for? You shook your head. This situation was out of character for your sister. Anything could happen. Well, I guess we should go in and find out. Taking his cue, you grab your keys and open the front door. Cove trailed behind you as you entered. You walked through the open door and peered about, not sure what you were looking for. From the entryway, you could see Liz pacing across the living room, her smiling gaze intent on her phone. You had caught her just as she had completed a turn. Behind you, the door clicked shut. The second she heard it, her head darted up to your direction, her features lighting up at the sight of you and Cove. Ah, you arrived, and together too. That's perfect, just perfect. She flashed you a radiant smile. You could almost see her limbs vibrating as if she was poised to pounce. Cove raised an eyebrow at your sister's bizarre behavior. We'll say what's going on. Oh, you'll see. Liz's eyes narrowed with a mischievous grin. I can talk. And she let out a little cackle. Oh boy. So lately, I've been hard at work on a little plan of mine, and you two get the honor of seeing it all come together. Here it is. Surprise! She lifted a hand in the air to present a very comfortable but completely mundane living room. In the resulting silence, you and Cove glanced around again, and then made eye contact with each other, his face mirroring your bafflement. Then suddenly, another voice rang out in the room.
Surprise!
Cove flinched at the shout, his shoulders shooting up to his ears. Laughter came from your sister, as well as from the other side of the room. Your head whipped around just in time to see a familiar figure with a freckled face and purple cap springing from behind the back of the couch. Cove's mouth fell open, recognition immediately coming to him. Shiloh? Hi, Cove. Hi, June. Okay, Shiloh in this outfit, literally all I can think of is Mia from Skate and his voice actor Rai, because it's like the colors of Mia, but then he kind of looks like Rai, and it's very distracting. Shiloh greeted the two of you so casually, like he'd been gone for 10 days rather than 10 years. We'll just do Shiloh. Like Cove, you found yourself shouting your long-lost companion's name out of sheer disbelief. It couldn't be him, but it was really him, here, in your living room. With a wide grin on her face, Liz snickered and clapped her hands together, as pleased as a child after a fruitful night of trick-or-treating. You and Cove's reactions were adequate offerings in her bucket full of treats. As amazed as you were still wondering one thing. What happened? You had no idea who we were when we ran into each other. Shiloh's gaze self-consciously dropped to the side. He tugged the brim of his hat down, bracing himself to answer, but Liz waved a hand at him, as if to say, don't worry about it. I'll explain. When we got home that day, I changed my mind about letting it go. Why did I have to? Social media exists, right? So I thought, why not try finding him and sending him a little reminder message? Luckily, there are only so many 17-year-old Shiloh fields in the world. It wasn't that hard to do. Hearing Liz speak seemed to encourage Shiloh, who pulled himself together to face both you and your sister with a careful smile.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened. When you talked to me that first time, I was in the middle of a tour for a school field trip. I couldn't get separated from the group and didn't expect anyone to want to be talking to me. I was so worried about getting back to everyone else, I didn't think too hard on what you were saying. But when Lizzie's message showed up, everything suddenly hit me. Lizzie, June, Cove, you were the kids from Sunset Bird, back when I was a little kid. There's no way I could forget that, not for real. I do know all of you, and I'm so happy to get to see you again. I have Lizzie to thank for that. My mom was already planning to take a short trip near here this summer.
Well,
If my mom could bring me along, Lizzie offered to pick me up and bring me the rest of the way here, just so I could visit the neighborhood again. And that's why I decided to make it a big reveal instead of outright telling you to. I got back in contact with Shiloh. Once again, she lifted a hand in the air, properly presenting that long-lost childhood friend you all shared. So, ta-da! You were glad they were able to see each other again. You smiled softly at Liz, remembering how Shiloh used to follow your sister around like a baby chick after his mom when they were kids. It's nice seeing the two of you together like this, just like old times. Cove blinked slowly, still a little dazed by everything that was going on.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to get some water. Don't disappear or anything. You padded off to the kitchen. No need for a chaperone. He knew where the cups were. Wow, you really surprised him, Liz. And June, too. Did you see his face when I appeared? Yes, I did. Liz patted the cushioned front of the couch. Make yourself comfortable. You don't have to keep hunkering down behind there anymore. With a laugh, Shiloh crossed around the backside and took a seat. But maybe it was awkward being the only one sitting because he kept idly twiddling his fingers. You could hear him humming to himself, a nonsense tune with no real melody, something to keep his voice busy. Being here again could be more nerve-wracking for him than he let on. Ko's soft voice announced his return. He paused to drag the back of his hand across his mouth, wiping away what droplets of water lingered there. Hi, Shiloh. Welcome back. At Ko's confused greeting, Shiloh laughed cheerily.
Thanks.
I think it's amazing you're all still here in the same neighborhood, just like how it was way back then. With a giggle that implied differently, Liz nodded in your general direction. There have been some changes since then. You narrowed your eyes up, Liz. There was no way you could miss the teasing look she was fixing you and Cove with. Shiloh's eyes shifted across the group, still smiling politely, but there was a slight tilt to his eyebrows. He didn't know what to make of what she was saying. That is, until Cove cleared his throat and spoke. June and I are dating. It was fascinating how red he got as he said it, but his voice was steady, confident. By now, most people knew you were going out. Shiloh's eyes went as wide as saucers, mouth opening in a tiny O shape.
Congratulations! That's amazing!
Aw, it's so cute. The two of you seem to like each other even when we were kids. It's really sweet that you're together. Cove's got himself a keeper. Yeah, it was pretty inevitable, blah blah blah. Sure, I wouldn't want to be with anyone else. You didn't falter as you said it. There was no one like Cove, no one who could replace who he was to you, what you had gone through together. He gave you an adoring smile, and the eyes that met yours were full of sincerity. He felt the same way. Shiloh sighed happily at the moment. Shiloh sighed happily at the moment as Cove raised an eyebrow and gave the room a considering glance. Hey, this is where we met the first time, remember? Right after I moved in, me and June were brought down right here to have a play date with you. Shiloh laughed, his eyes downcast as he filled with the corners of his collared shirt. We met on the hill behind the house. What? The two of you ran away from the living room because Cove didn't want to meet me. You grimaced, remembering how Cove had gone straight to the window to escape their arranged meeting. You had gone with him when Shiloh had arrived. Cove cringed at the memory of his younger self being pushed back to the forefront of his mind. His mouth going tight, he awkwardly looked away from Shiloh. You have a good memory.
Oh?
Oh, I don't think so. Seeing this place again just brings a lot of things back. He clapped his hands together, an idea suddenly coming to him. But hey, now that our group is together, would you want to go out and visit some of the old places? I've been hiding in the living room since I got here. Liz wasn't afraid to laugh at herself, bringing a hand to her chest to silently take the blame for that. I'd love to. Yeah. Without missing a beat, the others turned to you for your answer. Yeah, where to first?
That's fine.
I'm sure we'll figure it out along the way. And with that, the four of you headed out into the neighborhood as one. Even with how short the time you spent indoors was, the sun momentarily blinded you once you left the house. Squinting, you brought your hand up to shield your eyes. The pleasant summer day had yet to go away, only a few wispy clouds drifted along in the sky. As you strolled down the way, Liz took the lead, followed by you and Cove walking side by side. Shiloh freely took to walking in the middle of the road, his arms idly swinging back and forth at his sides as he turned his head every which way to take in as much as he could. It was very much a trip down memory lane for him. You wondered how much the neighborhood had changed in his eyes. Not a word passed between the group about where you were heading first, but soon enough you found yourselves walking the usual path to the shopping street. Before you reached it, the sounds of it did. A collective of sandals tracking sand, the shrill call of seagulls, the overlapping conversations of beachgoers, and random strains of music from various stalls. Wow! The odd gasp had come from Shiloh. His eyes were all lit up. Were there always so many different stores in one place?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Wow, I can see why so many people come here. Hey, do they still have those nice little ice cream stands? Yeah, that hasn't changed. Yay, we should get some. It'll be my treat. Thanks, Shiloh. Ice cream sounds perfect on such a hot day. How about you, Cove? You could see that, unlike Liz, Cove was struggling with the decision, brow wrinkled in thought. Finally, a hesitant smile appeared on his face as he settled on keeping to the spirit of the special occasion. Yeah, sounds great, or sounds good to me. Awesome. In June? Yeah. I'd like that, thanks. Shiloh gave you a wide grin, as if you were the one buying him ice cream. The four of you continued to walk as ice cream plans were further discussed. Are you getting a popsicle, Lizzie? Yes. Hearing that, Shiloh smiled shyly. I thought you might still like that. I'm gonna get an ice cream cone. Shiloh began to turn towards Cove, but before he could ask, Cove offered up his choice. Oh, an ice cream sandwich. Good choice, Cove. I like that. What am I gonna get? An ice cream sandwich. Yeah. I love a good ice cream sandwich. It's a good choice. Yes, I agree, Cove. We know where it's at. I mean, ice cream cones are good too, but I love a good ice cream sandwich. Cove gave you a quick smile at your matching preference. You still like those, Cool. Yep. I mean, what's not to like? They're very good. Now I really want a chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwich. I haven't had one of those in ages, but they're so good. Okay. There was an ice cream stall further up the street, across from the souvenir shop displaying postcards of the seaside and saltwater taffy in its windows. The stand itself was already hard to miss, with its pastel pinks and blues, and its eyes-catching poster boards listing every individual flavor. It was impossible to ignore once the catchy little jingle playing from its speakers was added. Shiloh greeted the owner and began picking out the treats that everyone had chosen. He paid for them before handing them out to their respective owners. I should do a visual novel too since I read last stories. I do want to at some point. That is on my list of things I would love to do, is make a visual novel. At some point. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but at some point. And also thank you for the hydrate. One of these days, I will make a visual novel. I just have a few other projects I need to finish first, though. Yeah. Sinking your teeth into your ice cream sandwich, you relish the sweet chill it left in your mouth. Liz was right. This was a perfect treat for a summer day. Around you, everyone was eating at their own pace. Liz held her popsicle away from herself, careful not to let it drip onto her dress. She was trying to go about eating it as delicately as she could while Shiloh dug into his. You counted only 2 or 3 bites before Cove had devoured his sandwich. Shiloh laughed, also noticing the way Cove inhaled his food. It's already finished? Cove shrugged a little in reply, his attention more focused on crumbling up the sandwich wrapper in his hand. So what have you been doing around here since I've been gone? Well, I already told you about me attending college away from here, so I don't really live here anymore. But to be more specific on my life, I'm pursuing a degree in architecture. Ooh, that's cool. Shiloh perked up at that, his mouth falling open in awe. Amazing.
Thanks.
Actually, I was thinking about it, and the first time I really decided I liked buildings and building them was when you and I would make sandcastles on the beach.
Aw.
Aw, Lizzie. At such a sincere admission from your sister, all Shiloh could do was blush and lower his head, too flattered to know what else to say. Liz laughed, just as flustered though she had been the one to say it. The atmosphere was awkward, but not unpleasant. Shiloh shyly glanced at you and Cove. Then what about you two? What have you been up to?
Oh.
Me and June just graduated. High school, I mean. I've got a part-time job. I volunteer at this organization to clean up stuff, things like that. That's a secret. You idly explained how you're doing normal things? Yeah. You felt there wasn't anything super interesting to share about your life. What you cared about was important to you, but you knew it wasn't always the same for other people. Shiloh just seemed happy to hear it.
Great!
Being around him again was a little like picking up an old forgotten habit. Clunky at first, but as the 4 of you talked, it started to come more natural. And when one of you ran out of things to say, suddenly someone else remembered something new. Oh great, do you remember those mean old not actually grandparents that used to live in the neighborhood? Yeah, they were so mean. Well, they're not here anymore. Oh no, they're not spending summers here anymore. They're still alive. Thank goodness. It helped that Shiloh was just as eager to hear what had gone on in his absence as the people were to tell him. Soon everyone threw out what trash they had in a nearby garbage can, as your group made their way down to the beach. Going down to the shore inevitably led to a certain spot. It didn't take very long for Shiloh to recognize what was in the distance. His words trailed off in the middle of a sentence, his footsteps faltering at first. Then, all at once, he broke away from the group, dashing right into the old park, giggling as he ran. Oh, everything's so small! He laughed. His laughter petered out as he came to a stop by the swings and grabbed hold of one of the support poles. He walked a little circle around it, marveling at how easily his hand wrapped around its entirety. Emboldened by Shiloh's enthusiasm, Liz plopped herself down on one of the swing sets, only to instantly show an expression of regret. There was no way she was comfortable in that tiny seat so low to the ground, not with how she had to scrunch her legs up to fit. Shiloh creeped up behind her. He took hold of the chains of her swing, one in each hand.
Seriously?
What are you doing? And with a grin, Shiloh started walking back. Liz shifted in her seat to look at him. You cannot be trying to push me. These are made for kids. It's never gonna work. But Shiloh just hummed and kept pulling her back. Resigning herself to her fate, Liz tucked her legs up as much as possible as Shiloh moved his hands to her back. With a running start, he got her forward and up as far as he could go before jumping out of the way. Liz had her eyes squeezed shut, a screech escaping her as the swing started falling backwards, and when it swung back around, there was Shiloh again to push her. She couldn't kick the ground like when you were kids, her legs were too long for that now, but Shiloh was pushing her enough to keep the momentum going. The air was filled with their wild laughter and the almost rhythmic jingle of the swing chains. Cove sat against the bars of the jungle gym, wearing a bent smile as he watched them. He was fiddling with something, turning it over and over in his hands. When you craned your neck to get a better view, he obligingly lifted it for you to see. It was a piece of shell, one side rough and mottled gray, the other side completely smooth, revealing a faint blue sheen when it caught the light. I saw it on the beach. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good one. No, I mean Shiloh. He seems more confident than I remember. Yeah, I think so too. He and Liz look closer than they did as kids. Cove nodded, leaning back to enjoy the breeze blowing in from the sea. Soon your sister began to speak out. All right, I'm ready to get off now. How do you stop this? Don't worry. Shiloh braced himself, one foot planted forward as the swing started coming back down. Then, in one quick motion, he reached up and caught the chains again. The impact has his feet skidding back in the sand, but he kept his stance steady. If Liz was surprised at suddenly being brought to a halt, she didn't show it, only tilted her head up to smile at him. Shiloh had yet to catch his breath upon returning the smile just as brightly. He let go of the chains, walking around the swing set and briefly rubbing his hands together before offering one to Liz, which she graciously accepted, needing the help to get out of the tiny seat. Then the two of them made their way back over to you and Cove. Liz was looking more ruffled than usual, and her sun hat was off kilter. Having held on for dear life for the entire ride, she took a moment to straighten her outfit back into place. That looked fun. It was. Even though you were just pushing me on the swings. Yep, that was the fun part.
Huh.
Hey Shiloh, you've got an idea of what our lives have been like since you've been gone, but we've been wondering what happened to you after you moved away. Shiloh's eyes went wide, as if it was surprising to hear. You couldn't recall him talking about himself when you were all telling stories, but maybe he hadn't been able to find the right timing. He brought his hand to his chin, tapping it thoughtfully as he looked up and to the side. Well, what happened was my mom decided to move back to the south, closer to where I was born. We stayed there for a few years until she got another job offer in California again, thanks to a connection she had here. It was a really good job at a private boarding school, so she decided to take it. With a wide grin, he said the next part. And as a bonus, her kid, me, gets to attend the school and live in the dorms for free. I've been there since my second year in middle school. Pretty soon I'm going to be starting my last year of high school. Liz leaned towards him with an attentive smile on her face. Have you been doing well there? Getting good grades? Got any friends? At the listed question, Shiloh held his hands in front of himself, as if they were physical things he could shave off.
Yeah.
Yeah, to everything. It can be a little hard sometimes because of how people are in that school, but I'm happy. How people are? Cove couldn't guess what that meant, but Liz folded her arms, scolding. Don't tell me there's more people like that Nate guy hanging around. Shiloh rubbed his cheek, laughing nervously. He glanced from the bars of the jungle gym to the laces of his shoes to the trees swaying in the distance, unsure where to rest his gaze. Not exactly. Nate doesn't mean to be mean. He just kind of is. He's the school #1 performer for athletics and academics. He always takes on so much responsibility that the only possible way he can finish it all is if absolutely nothing goes wrong. but that's impossible, so he's always stressed and ready to snap. He can't handle it when someone seems to be causing a problem. That's why during the field trip he was upset when I went off on my own like that. Still, he's really smart and reliable and sensitive, and he cares a lot. Most of the time he doesn't even realize his way of dealing with stuff upsets other people. Cove had a patient smile on his face, listening earnestly as Shiloh rattled off his list of Nate's good traits. You know him pretty well. Are you actually friends? Well, not exactly. Me and Nate are in the same after-school group. Once a month, me, 6 other students, and a supervisor get together to talk. We did it all of last year, and I think next year we're going to be in the same group again. I hope so. What to say nice. Shiloh liked this after-school group of his, and you were glad to hear he had space for himself in his school. Personally, I'd still appreciate having a word with Nate about his communication skills. Her tone of voice was low and pointed. You'd be worried for Nate if not for the playful smile that accompanied her words. Shiloh let out a little laugh at that. I do have Nate's number, but he wouldn't pick up. The people in my group only answer when they feel like hearing from me, so usually I have to wait for them to call. Either that, or they'd never even consider answering my call, or calling me, or talking to me at all, unless the supervisor forces them to. It was such a bleak description of his dynamic with his group, but he didn't seem to realize it until he glanced up and saw the concerned looks on everyone's faces. His smile fell. He hastened to add one more thing. Well, except for one who will always answer for sure. Oh. She immediately perked up.
Really?
So that's a friend of yours? He hesitated to answer. Something Cove picked up on. Not exactly. Yeah, I'd like to be friends, though. Alright. Liz crossed her arms together once more, grim-faced like she was the commander of a ship about to leave her little crew into battle. You should call them. Right now. What? If you want to be friends with them, I can help. If you're going to be in the same group again, then you should at least try to get along. No, I couldn't. He quickly grew flustered, his tongue stumbling over his sentences. I don't want to be a bother.
I mean...
Liz, what are we gonna do? Watch him while he talks to someone on the phone? No, Cove. Shiloh? The last syllable of Shiloh's name trailing off into nothing, it soon became clear Liz had not fully thought out the plan yet. But she wouldn't be Liz if she just stopped there. Shiloh could put them on a video call and we could all talk together, of course. She clapped her hands together, a wide smile on her face that didn't leave room for dissenting opinions.
All right.
It's a good idea. It'll work. I'm just gonna stay out of this. Cove gave a long-suffering sigh at Liz's suggestion. Come on, Shiloh, we'll just talk to them, say that we are friends from out of town. The worst that could happen is nothing changes. But once they have more chances to talk to you, I know they'll be convinced to be better friends. It's gonna turn out okay. Shiloh stalled to answer, but his hand was already hovering over one of the pockets of his pants. Alright, we can talk. Yes! Liz clenched a hand into a fist, cheering as Shiloh officially reached into the pocket and pulled out his phone. You noticed it was the same type of model as your own, but his had a red case around it. The screen lit up and Shiloh requested a video call with some number in his contacts. None of them on the list had names. He must remember what number belongs to what person. Well, that's kind of impressive. I can hardly remember my own cell phone number. He inched closer to the three of you so everyone could hear better. Vaguely, you wondered how this looked from the outside. 4 teenagers on the verge of adulthood hanging out on an old playground, all huddled up around a single phone. Strange? Suspicious? The ringing of the phone broke you out of your musings. You kept your eyes on it, your heart speeding at the end of each dial tone, thinking, could this be it? Only to have another startup. It had been ringing for a while when you started to think of what Cove said about all of you watching as Shiloh talked on the phone. Maybe even that wouldn't happen. Shiloh could sense the awkwardness in the air, smiling to try to dispel it. This is normal, don't worry. Just as he said it, the call ended, not even going to voicemail. Shiloh clicked to redial. He never answers on the first call. He always does on the second. That's how he is, at least with most people. There are exceptions. You, Liz, and Cove furtively shared and ambiguous looks. Wow, that was talented English. None of you wanted to accidentally discourage Shiloh. Then you focused on the phone again as it started to ring once more. The jingling suddenly cut off in the middle, followed by the faint sound of white noise. With a big smile on flushed cheeks, Shiloh brought the phone up to his face. A voice, low and groggy, came, grasping out the speakers. Hello? Shiloh, on the other hand, was much more chipper.
Hi.
I'm visiting a town I used to live in when I was little, and I wanted to introduce my groupmate to the people I knew back then. Some of them have already met Nate. Can you say hello to them too? And with that rushed introduction, Shiloh stuck the phone out towards Cove, gesturing for him to greet the person on the other end. Although Cove hadn't been on board in the beginning, the only indication of that now was the lopsided tilt of his smile. He turned his gaze down to the screen, opening his mouth to speak, only to stutter to a complete stop. All Cove could do was splutter and gape at the screen. His reaction had Shiloh's brow crinkling in worry. What? Shiloh's groupmate didn't sound particularly impressed with how this conversation was going so far. Shiloh frowned, retracting his arm away from Cove. As he did so, the screen tilted towards you and you caught a glimpse of what was on the screen. Light green hair, sharp orange eyes shadowed with bags, and icy pale skin all tied together to make up the scowling face of a person who clearly had no desire to be here. Technically these are both valid. We knew and boy, we also have no idea what's going on. A flood of memories arose, flashing of that one summer years ago at this very same park, you holding onto an arrangement of fruit, Derek and Cove at your side, and that kid, mean as a tiny chihuahua, snapping at everyone who dared come close. Yeah, are you Jeremy? Jeremy's back, but he seems slightly less obnoxious than before, hopefully. Yeah, his reply was palpably disinterested. How did you know his name was Jeremy? You didn't tell them? No, I only called you someone from my group at school. Jeremy regarded you cautiously for the first time, giving the situation a little of his focus. Cove bristled, sucking in a long, deep, dramatic breath.
Oh my god.
And all at once he started shouting, and not just with his voice. He waved his arms around, gesturing wildly with his hands, to repeat yelling, "Oh my god," with all sorts of inflections. At these antics, Jeremy gave a short huff of a sigh through his teeth, the sound tinny over the phone speakers. What is this, Shiloh? Are you trying to make me suffer? Are you still mad about what happened in the amusement park? I was on your side, you know. Liz, who had been entirely lost this whole time, finally spoke up.
Huh?
What happened at the amusement park? But no one paid that question any mind. I don't know what's going on. Have you met each other before? Nope. It was an immediate reply from Jeremy, but then those stinging eyes squinted. Wait. There was a flash of recognition as he leaned his head forward and scrutinized both of you. His already wide frown somehow found a way to grow deeper at his realization.
Oh, it's you people. Again.
He looked from Shiloh to Cove and then to you. You could tell he was carefully putting his thoughts together.
Sorry.
I have no idea how you people got in contact with me or what Shiloh has to do with this, but, sorry. What? Jeremy sighed again. His gaze rolled over to Cove. I don't remember exactly what I did or what I said, but I do know what I was like as a kid, and really that's all I need to know. Well, okay, but who is that apology for? It better be from me and June. He spoke sternly, though there was no hiding the shakiness present. That didn't matter. Cove coming to your defense by confronting Jeremy brought a warm smile to your face. Jeremy, on the other hand, continued to be unimpressed. The corner of his lip twitched. I didn't need to know what the teenage guy equivalent of a squishy squeak is, but now I do. Thanks for that. A small, offended noise escaped Cove. Unfortunately, it was also squeaky sounding. His face immediately burned red with embarrassment. That's my squeak toy you're talking about? I mean, I'm just not gonna say anything. I don't want to accidentally make things worse. How could you even respond to that? Jeremy didn't react at all. He continued watching the four people on the other end of this unwanted call, lackadaisically.
Whatever.
The apology is for whoever. Anyone who has to deal with me back then, they weren't having a good time. He shrugged. Jeremy's focus cycled from you to Cove and back again. I kind of remember what happened, I think. You were sensitive and you didn't have much patience for me. That makes sense. Jeremy tilted his head Cove's way, and then yours respectfully. Amazed, Cove took a few processing moments before he could respond. He blinked and rubbed the back of his neck. Oh, thanks. I mean, it's no problem? Yeah. I accept your apology. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah. This moment was the absolute last thing you had expected today, but you couldn't help but be pleased it happened. Whatever. Following Cove's eye, you watched it dart from Shiloh to Jeremy, openly wondering what had happened to Jeremy over these past few years. So you're nice now?
Nope.
I like how straightforward he is. I don't throw tantrums or pick fights anymore, but I'm not nice. Jeremy shook his head in disbelief. That squeak toy comment wasn't a compliment, you know. I don't have the energy to get angrily worked up like I used to as a kid. It's all pointless anyways now. Now I'm just miserable. Okay. His tone was even grumblier than usual, and dragged the syllables out of the last word for extra emphasis. An awkward laugh escaped Shiloh, then his mouth pulled into a dimmer smile. Don't let what Jeremy says about himself get you too down. He's got people who care about him and make sure he's okay, like me. Don't listen to Shiloh. It's nice you're looking out for someone else. Sure. Shiloh blushed at the compliment while Jeremy fixed you with a blank stare. Thanks, June. Okay, seriously, how long am I meant to be out of the loop here? Her expression twisted in frustration as Liz rubbed her right temple. Why am I the only one who doesn't know this kid? Shiloh goes to school with him, that's fine. But how did you two meet him? And how the two of you meet him and I didn't? I would try to explain. You were there, I think. He was around town one summer, maybe 5 years ago? Is that all? Well, Liz seemed a bit underwhelmed. Shiloh appeared to be utterly amazed. You had to hold back a small laugh.
Really?
You knew Jeremy as a little kid? What was he like? I've only known him for a year and a half. Well... His voice immediately hushed into nothing. You could see Cove flinch just thinking about those past encounters. Actually, Cove does a good Jeremy impression. No, you reflect on that as well. You could already picture past Jeremy in your mind. I don't know. I feel like we're not the right ones to answer. We did not have a very good view of him, so we're just gonna you did attempt to answer. The awkward tension only grew in the following moments of silence. Cove rubbed his arm. Jeremy mostly, he just went around being mad about everything. He was always upset, shouting and insulting people a lot. Jeremy's expression didn't give away a single sign of what he might have been thinking. He continued to blandly stare at you both up until he finally spoke.
Yep.
Yep, that sounds like me. At that confirmation, Shiloh burst into uncontrollable laughter. Even when he calmed a moment later, gasping for breath, there was still a wide grin plastered on his face. I can't even imagine Jeremy being like that. I can't imagine him not being like that. They both chuckled again. Co's mouth pulled into a bent smile. I mean, Jeremy hasn't made fun of my eyebrows once this whole conversation. Unbelievable.
Huh.
Jeremy blinked and focused all of his attention onto Cove. His eyes unmistakably narrowed in on the eyebrows. He didn't say anything at first, and then his words came out in a mumble. That makes sense. I guess insulting eyebrows wasn't just what I did as a kid. Or was just what I did as a kid. What does that mean? What do you think it means? You weren't the only kid in the world with bad eyebrows, and you're not the only one I picked on for it.
Seriously?
I wasn't? You couldn't help yourself, could you? Nope. Wow. So, what made the eyebrows bad? Are you curious if yours are better? By terrible eyebrow standards, at least. Kind of, yeah.
Sigh.
I like how he said sigh. Incredulously, Cove flicked from Jeremy to you, and then back to him again. You had to question if you heard that right. He spoke the word sigh instead of actually sighing. Noticing the reaction, Jeremy sighed for real, but he continued on to answer Cove's question. The guy has particularly odd hair coloring. White hair, but only on the top of his head. Every other strand on his body is dark brown, including his immensely bushy eyebrows. He was born that way, it's not dyed. So you were the scared boy with dumb wavy eyebrows, and he was the white-haired boy with stupid caterpillar eyebrows. Ow. Unexpectedly, a loud gasp came from Shiloh at that description. No, you picked on Pran for his eyebrows. No, you picked on Pran for his eyebrows? I did. I'm sure you find that hilarious. No, that's not very funny. So he said, but Shiloh was smothering laughter. The unconvincing note in Jeremy's voice didn't surprise you. Okay, wait, give me a second. Let me just... Jeremy rolled his eyes at the slowness, or in the slowest, most exaggerated way possible. When he made a complete circle, he spoke flatly while Shiloh broke into a fit of giggles. there. Who's Pran? Shiloh knows him too?
Well,
Jamie and Pran have known each other for a long time. They managed to go to the same boarding school later on. I met them both there in the spring of last year. We're all group mates. Jamie's gaze slid away from Shiloh. He looked somewhere between you and Cove. Pran and I met about 4.5 years ago, back when I was still an intolerable brat and Pran was meek. You can only imagine how amazing that combination was. Yeah, it must make those group meetings awkward. Nope. Somehow, someway, for some reason, Pran chose to stubbornly stick with me for as long as we've known each other. He's my best friend. What? It's surprising, I know. I have a best friend, and it's the caterpillar brow guy of all people. But I guess things balanced out in the end. Pran's timid nature is good and dead. He grew up to be colder than even me. I'm mopey and he's broody, a perfect match. 2 peas in a ruining everyone's life pod.
Gross.
Don't quote Everett. Cove whined after Jeremy snapped his last remark. Now who's Everett? You don't want to know. Yeah, you don't want to know. Shiloh hummed and he watched his 3 old friends with an amused smile. He was having fun. Before he could say anything, Jeremy continued. Everett is also part of the group, unfortunately. But he chose not to elaborate further than that. Liz sighed this time. You could feel her frustration. You couldn't blame her for that. She'd always been able to participate, or she hadn't been able to participate much at all. She didn't know Jeremy then, so there was no basis for reminiscing now. And there was a 10-year age gap in her history with Shiloh. The whole situation struck an odd chord with you. 2 boys that you knew separately came to know each other, and now they know each other much better than they know any of you. Shiloh was almost a stranger. You're glad things seem to be going alright? Or you shrugged off the feeling? Well, glad things seem to be going alright. Jeremy hadn't left the call, and you were learning bits and pieces about Shiloh's new world outside of Sunset Bird. You were taking both as little wins. Turning to the 3 of you, Shiloh smiled apologetically. You wonder if he was picking up on how in the dark Cove and Liz were feeling. He was perceptive when he wanted to be. Hey, is there anything you want to hear about Jeremy? I can tell you all about him. We should get to know each other better. Don't do that. It'll be okay. Jeremy whined, but Shiloh brushed off his complaints. He remained happily focused on the rest of you, and Liz seemed to perk up at the conversation shift. That sounds great. We should get to know Jeremy. So, who wants to go first? Despite being eager, it was obvious that Liz didn't have any ideas herself. Jeremy let out a very long sigh. Can I get his number? No. How tall is he? Is he doing well in school? Sure, why not? Yeah, Nate is still doing the best, but Jeremy gets respectable scores. Or, unless by doing well you mean to ask if he's having a good time or making friends, then in that case, no, he's not. You weren't sure how to respond to that at all. Glancing back at Jeremy, he rolled his eyes. I don't know, this is just feeling really random and forced. Oh. That's everything I can think of. I mean, I probably should have asked more questions, but whatever. Cool, thanks for asking. Cove, do you have any questions for Jeremy? Stunned, it took Cove a moment to recover from being put on the spot. But ultimately, his eyes shifted from Shiloh's and locked with Jeremy's. They remained like that long enough that it was as if they could speak telepathically. Alright, yeah, I have a question, but Shiloh can't answer. Fine, ask me, let's get it over with. What do you think of me? Even if you don't think I'm tough or something, do you still feel like I'm stupid and wrong about everything? A crack formed in Jeremy's lackadaisical expression. His barely opened eyes lifted a little more, but he still spoke flatly. My opinion on stuff is basically the least important thing you could ever worry about. It's pointless. Well, I'm still asking, so... Cove, right? That's your name? Cove nodded. There was a tint of pink in his cheeks as he bashfully rubbed his arm.
Okay.
Okay, Cove, you seem like a guy who cares a lot about things that don't matter. It sounds pretty dumb to me. I grew out that years ago. And being as soft as you act, it isn't something that I would ever do, basically. But you know what the absolute dumbest thing really is? Cove shook his head with creased brows, then leaned forward just a bit like he couldn't... He leaned forward just a bit like he couldn't risk not hearing what revelation Jeremy was going to bestow on him. Making yourself miserable if you don't have to be. Oh? If you and the rest of the people here have a way to enjoy existence, then you should go ahead and do that. Stay gentle and happy, dumb eyebrow guy.
You have my approval, if that's what you wanted.
I hope you all have wonderful lives and suffer as little as possible. Wow. The word tumbled out softly. Cove was earnestly amazed by Jeremy's words.
Thank you.
And you know what's not gonna make you stay happy? What? Talking to a downer like me. So really, you should end this conversation right now, and no, you should ever call me again for the rest of our lives. That sounds good. Can I hang up already? Oh, wait, Jeremy. I can't never call you again. Shut up, Shiloh. Unfazed, Shiloh laughed with a tilt of his head. Building something good up, only to try undercutting it. That's the Jeremy I know.
Sorry.
The word dripped with sarcasm and was accompanied by a smirk. It was the first time you saw him smile this entire time. Cove piped up meekly, an awkward smile on his own face. Maybe my opinion is totally skewed because I'm comparing things now to how Jeremy used to be, but I mean, you don't seem that bad. What? Cove needed to look away from Jeremy's painfully sharp eyes to finish his thought.
I mean...
I'd probably be okay with talking with you again. Sigh. Come on. You can't have standards. Yeah, Kofi's pretty cute. I want to call him cute. I do think it's that bad. I'm just no comments. Like, I'll talk to him again, but I don't know that I choose to talk to him again. It was awkward. Jeremy seemed fixed on escaping having to speak to any of you again, so why push it? But he still hadn't hung up again, and he could have. Well, this is a good enough start.
Good.
Now that we're so much closer to this Jeremy kid, I think we can all get along together and be friends. Friends? Jeremy repeated the word back like it was a foreign phrase. He generally didn't seem to understand. That's right. If we keep working on it, I don't see why the five of us can't be friends. He stared at Liz incredulously for several moments, her expression twisted into fresh confusion of her own. Okay, 3 things. First, I already have one whole friend, and that's more than enough. Second, I still know who you are. Did you even say your name at any point? And most importantly, third, one of the people in this friendship is Shiloh Fields, and he and I aren't going to be friends. Why not? And I'm Liz, by the way. Because he's Shiloh. Our relationship is already as good as it's ever going to be. He mercifully leaves me be most of the time, And on the weird occasion where he does need something, I just get it over with. Then he goes away again, and I have a modicum of peace. You know how it works, right? You're in it with me. We have the best, you're in it with me. We have the best arrangement possible with the way it is. Jeremy looked at Shiloh Jeremy looked at Shiloh seriously to back up the validity of their relationship, but Shiloh shook his head with a laugh. I don't try to hang around too much, but that's because you're shy. You're the only one who thinks that setup is actually a good idea. Sorry. Jeremy turned his face to the side and let out another exaggerated sigh. Cove and Liz both joined on Cove's mirth. Jeremy got no support.
Sigh.
Of course you'd say that. Why'd I even bother? That's Shiloh's famous memory for you. Liz, chuckling, stopped. Wait, what does that mean? Shiloh's famous memory? What? Whatever. Basically, Shiloh annoyingly remembers everything that happens for all of eternity. At least until some piece of info he has isn't helpful anymore, or he's got explaining to do, then magically all of a sudden he doesn't know anything about it. His boldly inconsistent recollection of situations is pretty much a running joke. It's Shiloh's stick, one of them anyways. A scowl dug into Liz's face as Jeremy spoke. Cove lost his smile, seeing her reaction. Shiloh remained silent with his big childlike eyes locked on your sister. Jeremy began to shrink away from the screen at the changing atmosphere. He broke eye contact with everyone. I'm guessing he did mention that.
No.
No, he didn't. And he said he forgot something to you? I do recall him saying a little thing like that. Sorry. But, well, apparently you had the pleasure of meeting Nate. You know me, and I talked a bit about Pran and Everett too. We're all in that unbearable group, and we're all unbearable people. What an amazing coincidence, huh? What we're about is kind of hard to hide. I'm gonna go now. I don't want to be the fifth wheel in your own little group. You three people have a good day, I guess. And Shiloh, I'll see you back at school.
Bye.
Jeremy promptly ended the call, just as people had begun to warm up to him. He accidentally found a new way to ice the mood again. Shiloh, now averting his own gaze, put his phone away and chuckled.
So...
I knew that Jeremy didn't think highly of me, but it's even worse than I thought. That's really sad. Shiloh? Her firm tone immediately brought Shiloh's focus back to her. Once she got his attention, however, Once she got his attention, however, Liz's voice became small. When we first met you in the city, did you know who we were? Did you pretend not to recognize us? The two old friends watched each other for a beat, but ultimately Shiloh closed his eyes with a lopsided smile. Ah, Lizzie, you gotta know how I could never really forget you. Liz was speechless, but wasn't quiet. Cove couldn't stop himself from shouting out. Oh my god, you were lying to them? Lying's a strong word. I was improvising. You didn't really mind, but were instead concerned about why he felt that was the best option. Did he dislike you that much, or was it something else? Go home, Shiloh, or go to my house and wait there until I can send you home.
Alright.
With his shoulders dipped and head low, Shiloh obediently left the park alone. After he disappeared up the road, Liz sat her butt down right into the sand, with no concern for how dirty her dress might get this time. Do we go after Shiloh or talk to our sister? let's... I kind of want to go after Shiloh, get his side of the story, so let's go after Shiloh. Watch Liz, I'll be back.
What?
You didn't give him an explanation, you just shot out of the park after Shiloh. I mean, we just kind of like, let's just kind of kicked him out. I feel like we should go make sure he's okay. You caught up to him on your neighborhood street. He must have noticed your footsteps because he was standing still in the middle of the road, waiting. You couldn't read his expression and he didn't say anything. I want to talk. He smiled while fiddling with the rim of his hat. We will, later. Thanks for trying. And that was it. He turned his back on you, continuing his walk of shame. You wanted to wait, like Liz asked. Even after all this, he listened to her. There was nothing you could do. You left him there to rejoin the others at the park. Ghost seemed concerned for you when you arrived, but you quickly reassured him when you sat down. He nodded and gave you space by your sister. She hadn't moved from where you had first left her. However, your presence caused her to stir. You can go. We're done. Cove shared an unsure look with you. She wanted to be alone, but this wasn't the time for that. We're not going anywhere. Accepting that you were going to be here for this, she let out a groan. At the same time, Liz pulled the sides of her hat down and gripped it tightly in frustration. I can't believe he pretended he didn't know us. Since when was Shiloh too good to catch up with acquaintances? It's infuriating. Am I an idiot for thinking we could talk? Let's do... Just lean against her. You wiggled over and close to your big sister so your shoulders were touching, and let your head rest on her. She kept her hat down. No, you're not an idiot. Yeah, Shiloh's a tool. Okay, that might be a little harsh. We don't know why he did it yet. I know I shouldn't care. It doesn't matter if one person doesn't want to be my bestie. He's not the greatest man on earth. I'll be fine. But I brought him here all the way from the other side of the state. I don't even know why he did any of this. Liz finally removed her hands from the brim of her hat in order to rub at her temples instead. It blows. Cove snorted some nervous laughter at her unexpected phrasing. She didn't mind it. Say the word and I'll force the answers out of him. If we ever see that guy again, I'll hurl him into the ocean. That's a bit excessive. Yeah, we'll do this one. I'm here for you, Liz, through thick and thin, no matter what.
Thank you.
Thanks, baby brother. She squished you tight and rocked you back and forth in a dramatic hug. You let out a Cove-like squeak. I love you. Love you too. And what is family for? Well, I thought it was for hogging the phone while growing up, but this works. She released you with a shaky, self-impressed laugh. Oh, and thank you too, Cove, for being around. We're going to officially be family one day, right? She shot him a wry smile and he tensed up, face going red. He was willing to take her teasing if it made her feel better. Don't mention it. Good. Liz rested her eyes after those last couple words. It eased your heart to see her feeling better. Cove let out a soft sigh of relief. Hey. Cove then brought his face close to yours so he could speak in a whisper.
Are you okay?
I know Liz was his best friend, but you knew him too. And you were there when he did his whole pretend improvisation act. I'll say I'm okay. Then I'm glad. He doesn't deserve to be gone for 10 years and slowly mess with everyone's emotions. I don't think he did it on purpose. Cove ended his checkup by reaching over to pat you on the shoulder reassuringly. Your longtime neighborhood group sat together quietly in the sand, just enjoying the feeling of familiarity and support. You weren't entirely sure how much time passed, but you were eventually caught off guard by a soft call in the distance. In unison, the three of you turned your heads towards the sound, and there, standing at the edge of the playground, was Shiloh himself. He waved. We're just gonna wait, see what he does. You want to give him a chance. It's a good thing your name is Fields, because I'm gonna put you in the ground? No. We'll say hi. You weren't sure what else to say. What's that? I couldn't hear you from over there, but don't get up on my account, I'll come to you. Really, Shiloh? Alright. You knew he heard what you said. Shiloh approached with easy strides as if he had been welcomed. You were floored with how much confidence, or shamelessness, the boy was apparently capable of now. Liz turned her face and refused to acknowledge what was happening. She might have been trying to think happy thoughts and wish Shiloh's presence away. Unfortunately, it didn't work. When Shiloh arrived, he plopped down into the sand with the rest of you, his legs folded crisscross.
Hi.
Get lost, Shiloh. I will, in just a minute. What do you want now? Well, I figured you'd want to talk to me after you had some space. I ought to let you do that, even if you're gonna yell at me. Liz finally faced him to be blah, blah, blah. Liz finally faced him to be free to snap at Shiloh with full force. And why in the world would you think that? Unfazed, Shiloh looked back at her softly. You haven't changed that much, Lizzie. You're the one who found me online when I brushed you off earlier this summer. When have you ever preferred leaving something unresolved in the end? You didn't even get a chance to make me explain why I did it. I bet you're dying to do that. Liz ground her teeth, quietly fuming. Shiloh had called it right, and that sucked for her. Fine, I'll bite. Give me your excuses. Well, mostly it was really bad timing. I could have handled it a lot better if I had known I was going to see you that day, and if there wasn't a self-appointed hall monitor dutifully watching every move people made. And a hi, good to see you, gotta go was simply too much for your little heart to manage. Of course, the goal was to keep as much distance as possible. Admittedly, I was the guy. Admittedly, blah 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 blah. I can talk. Admitting I was the guy you knew wouldn't have been helpful. So you can't stand us, and me trying to reconnect was just a huge pain for you after all. Amazing, wonderful. Thank you so much for saying so. No, that's not it. Don't feel bad though. You're almost never wrong. Your older sister's brows twitched as she stared at Shiloh in tired disbelief. He smiled back at her brightly. I did it so this wouldn't happen. What? I dealt with the situation the way I always do, by saying stuff I didn't exactly mean because it's just easier that way. You heard Jeremy, it's what I'm known for. Sure, right now you're mad that I pretended not to remember you, but if I hadn't done that, it would have been something else later on, and we'd have ended up here still. Liz's anger became more and more difficult for her to maintain. It was soon replaced with a sad confusion. Then don't do that. Don't be like that. Why not be someone you're actually okay showing me? Shiloh chuckled uncomfortably and searched for a way to explain himself to his former idol. I wouldn't have made you sad if I could have avoided it. I mean that. I thought I could at least finish this visit without issue. Jeremy wasn't someone I expected to call me out. That's pointless to him usually. But I'm going to be someone whose personality revolves around making you happy. No matter how much I follow others, it wasn't for them. Every decision was mine. I couldn't be in charge. I couldn't be in charge, so being a sidekick to the best option was something I did for my sake. I chose to let people be the boss when it's what I need, and I choose where to stop it. And the best I can do for you now is spare you from dealing with it. I'm not as earnest as you are. I'm not as nice as you are. I was always like that, even as a kid. Back then, I wanted to fit in, even if it meant excluding someone else. If they were the odd one out, that mean I wasn't. Finding my place here got harder when Cove moved in. It was a good thing for everyone that I ended up moving myself soon after that. I'll say you felt bad for him hearing that. It sounded like you struggled to develop relationships, and you wondered why he ended up that way. I knew that's essentially how you were back then. You were a scaredy cat who wanted someone to defend you.
Jeez!
I simply imagined that in the past 10 years you grew out of that and learned how to speak to others like, I don't know, an actual grown-up human being. Well, in my defense, I'm not an adult yet. I won't be 18 until later this year in October. October 30th. You remembered. So did you, punk. Shiloh chuckled self-consciously as Liz smirked at him. There was an affable moment before she became serious again. I liked you when we were kids. I want to know you now. That's what upset me the most. The idea that maybe you only want to be rid of your old friends.
Aw.
Aw, Lizzie, you're too good to need someone like me in your life. That's the truth. I'm not worth the effort. Except for with the unusual people who have odd tastes. Then she straightened up in the sand, brushing her dress back out. That's an incredibly annoying thing to say. It's insane. You've only changed in stupid ways and stayed the same for the rest. That's fair. Is it? It means maybe, is it? It means maybe I have unusual tastes. You could have stuffed Shiloh's entire hat into his mouth with how wide he opened it. Really? Well, as much as Mother Hen being compelled to look out for the chick, no matter how useless they are, is unusual. I can't help it. You haven't changed that much after all either. You're still Shiloh. You're painfully still Shiloh.
You're welcome.
I brought you out here and I'm not going to abandon you. It has to be someone's job to look out for and keep an eye on you. With her surety returned, she pulled herself up off the ground and glowered down at Shiloh with her arms folded. Now, I do want to apologize for everything done behind our backs when you could have opened with all of that you just said. You should have given us a real chance or stayed home. This stunt was rude to me and June and Cove too. As if bringing the baby chick comparison to life, Shiloh dutifully did as he was told. Sorry, Lizzie, June, Cove, everyone. I didn't want to cause problems or ruin the day. And you don't have to accept just because I'm saying it. Not everybody needs to like everyone. Alright then. You were kind of mean sometimes when we were kids, but I wasn't very nice to you either. All this recent stuff isn't really something All this recent stuff isn't really something to make about me, so I'm not gonna hold on to it. I mean, as long as you're not gonna keep upsetting people from now on. Thanks, Cove. I'll avoid doing that in the future. He then changed his focus to you. His expression was curious. He wanted to know where your feelings landed on him. I'll accept your apology. Shiloh was being Shiloh, and all you could do was accept that he was going to be Shiloh.
Thank you.
June, do you want to stay for what's left of the evening? As you got to your feet, you thought about it. Sure. You're right. Give Shiloh another chance. If Liz is looking out for Shiloh, someone has to look out for her. I'm kind of interested to see what'll happen next. I'll stick around. Yeah, we'll go with that. A slight grin went across your face. Shiloh looked at you for a moment, and you thought he caught a mischief glint there. Shiloh jumped to his feet, straightening his cap on the landing. Lynn would be so proud. You didn't all leave. Cove rose as well, but with a groan. Another group mate? Nope, she's our group supervisor. He's also friends with my mom. And if you were still wondering, that group is for people who have difficult to deal with attitudes. Jeremy and Nate being in it makes a lot of sense, huh? Shiloh spoke simply and finished his thought with a breezy shrug. Liz sighed loudly, and then she smiled ruefully at him. Geez, Shiloh, you certainly made yourself other people's problems since leaving. Well, now you all know me better too. Thanks for sharing. A small smirk appeared on her face as she watched Shiloh. You didn't fail to notice the hint of sarcasm in her voice. And thank you, June. Accompanied by a warm smile, Liz's tone was sincere. Can I keep hanging out with everyone too? Sheepishly, Cove rubbed his arm. Liz's smile stretched into a grin at that news. Aw, thanks for sticking around. Well then, what now? The four of you stared at each other in silence until Shiloh tentatively made a suggestion. Would anyone want to build a sandcastle? That sounds ideal. Your older sister began to truly relax again, and you were glad to see it. Glancing at Cove, he nodded in agreement with Liz. Yeah, I like the idea too. It had been a long time since you last built a sandcastle together. You were already looking forward to burying your feet in the sand. Then we're all agreed. Come on, gang, let's go play at the beach. The sun was far across the sky when the four of you trailed down from the park to the shore in comfortable silence. It was hard not to think back to how familiar it all felt. You never thought the four of you would ever be here together again. It wasn't long before you were sitting on the wet ground, busily pushing as much sand as possible into a lump. You all worked together quietly, but every so often a chuckle would drift through because of the castle's lopsided development. At one point, Cove stretched his legs out completely, and the incoming waves started reaching his toes. He initially was caught off guard and almost jumped into the castle, but ultimately didn't resist the water. After that, the group worked with purpose to finish before the ocean could tear it down. Though even still, Liz ended up taking time to be particular about the castle's rudimentary design. Shiloh, of course, backed up all her plans. Cove was a dissenting voice, wanting to keep things more laid back. Things got pretty boisterous. Being there and doing this with Cove, Liz, and Shiloh, it felt weirdly different, yet also weirdly the same. Smiling to yourself, you watched the three of them absorbed in the moment. It was nice, and you hoped everyone else was having just as much fun. It was sort of incredible that you were able to have another evening like this in your life. And the feeling of odd serendipity wasn't only with Shiloh. You had also gotten a sort of closure with the old villain of that one summer long ago. Just like old times, the four of you stayed on the beach until night fell, and the moon was high in the sky. Then the time had come to say goodbye. Shiloh needed to get back to his mom, and back to where his life truly was now. Before leaving the beach, Shiloh pulled you aside and gave you his number, just in case you wanted to keep in touch. Liz already had it, though he wanted to give it to you personally. You weren't expecting that, but it was comforting to know that this didn't have to be a permanent goodbye. The four of you walked up to the neighborhood street as one, tired smiles covering familiar faces around you. The wind gently blew by, sand dragged behind you, and a hard-to-grasp feeling of contentment carried you through to the end of this road. It was a good night. After that, Shiloh disappeared from Sunset Bird once again, though this time it wasn't heartbreaking or hard to understand. This time it was just another part of life. And it helped that Liz had her own phone and laptop and could easily check in on him time to time. That was nice too. Okay, it was a nice one. Okay, and I think I'm gonna end stream here. I've been streaming for almost 4 hours. That was good though. Okay, let me hop over here. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end stream here. Thank you everyone for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. That was a good one. I love this game so much. But yeah, thank you all for stopping by. Thank you so much for the raid. So that's my last stream for this week. Probably be back Wednesday next week. I haven't fully decided my schedule yet because I have something to do Saturday morning, so my schedule has to shift a little bit, but I'll get the schedule finalized and posted probably today, maybe tomorrow, but probably today. But yeah, so that's all from me. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, great weekend, and a great however long until I see you again. Until next time, bye bye.